Hey everyone, welcome back to Taste the Hustle. I'm your host, Jorge Abreu Jr., and today I'm super excited because my guest is a longtime friend of mine, Kevin Pereira. He goes by Shihan Kevin Pereira because the man is a super talented martial artist, powerhouse of a man. His style incorporates locking, punching, and all around full barring people left and right. I've been super excited to talk to him because I've always wanted to know how does a man from the Bronx just create his own martial arts. So we get into that, many other topics. I've known Kevin since 2005, back in the day when I used to be really into martial arts myself.
You'll never know that this is incredible. Not a marketing scheme, so it's hard to believe. All of the new energy you're starting to see. Moving as fast as a bull, charging the scene, but on point like a laser, targeted beam. It hits your body quick as a swift karate kick, so people feel it even if they won't acknowledge it. But you had to know it.
And it was great just catching up and reminiscing on old times. I really hope that you guys either find this inspirational, educational, or even just entertaining. If you did, you know what to do. Like and subscribe because I drop them every Friday. Also, if you didn't, please leave comments because I'm working on making them better and your tips are definitely going to help. So, with no further ado, let's go.
Right, go punch. If he retracts, I'm here. So if he tries to walk in on me, I'm protected. I can cut the head. I can do a bazillion freaking things for me, right? I can finish, actually do the kata, back fist, groin.
But it's right. So people bring back, boom.
Even if it's like a hook, whatever body, I'm here. It doesn't matter. This is all trapped. So I trap, boom, quick.
I cross out to break, up, twist. This comes to my hip, boom. So he grabs, boom, boom.
Did you see the new thing they have?
What?
Are you still following do you still feel like follow like what gis are coming out and what they're doing in terms of martial arts companies and stuff like that?
Nah, not in a long time.
Well, this guy Jesse Enkamp, right? He's like a karate nerd. I don't know if you've ever seen any of his videos or heard of him. He looks like a Ken doll.
He looks like a Ken doll?
Yeah, he's like a really tall, blonde, handsome, like young Swedish guy who spent some time in Okinawa. His primary style is Shito-ryu.
Okay.
His family's into it. Like his dad legit trained there. His dojo is basically his family's dojo. Beautiful location. He has thousands of videos on the internet, super famous. But he has a gi company called Seishin. And they developed this thing called the Seishin Soshin Black Belt.
Oh.
So it's a white belt that when you wear it in, it fades and the stuffing is black. So the white belt turns into a black belt.
Oh, that's pretty dope. That's like
It is.
the
Yeah, so it's
traditional
like
way
the
where
reverse.
it's how it used to be, where like it would just get dirty and black, and that
That's
was your
the
black
concept. Like, you know how, people wear white or black belt so much it fades and turns white. Well, this fades and turns black.
belt. Yeah, because I heard like the original concept was that the white belt was just a belt that you just had around your waist, and as the more you trained, it just got darker and darker and darker. And that eventually became like a dirty black belt, and that was where it supposedly came from, like where people got black belts.
Nah, they
trained
dyed
so
it.
much.
They dyed it. They actually dyed it. I have my teacher now. He has a friend who actually did the experiment. He literally wore a white belt for 3 years every day, and he literally let the white belt stay outside, like in the rain, in the mud. He buried this shit just to see if he could get it black, and never turned black.
Yeah,
It turned
just get,
like
dirty.
It turned like a brown. It looked kind of like because he had sent me a picture at some point. It looked like this, but
Okay.
he could never get it to turn black. And he had 3 years. He trained every day for about 4 hours with it. He was out in the rain, in the snow, on the beach, in the mud. The guy's out. I forgot where he was from, but somewhere in the Midwest. And it just, no matter what he did, it wouldn't turn black. So he was like, yeah, I knew somebody who tried it to see if it would work. But yeah, they dyed it. They had like some dye. You know, the original color scheme actually came from the Japanese swim trunks. You heard about that, right?
Japanese swim trunks?
Yeah. Basically, the way it worked is you wore swim trunks to denote your level in the swim team.
Okay.
So a white trunk was a beginner, a green belt was intermediate, brown was semi-advanced, and then black were the advanced swimmers. That's how they got the colors for the trunks.
That's where they got the colors? Hold on.
I mean, for the belts, yeah, the original colors: white, green, brown, black.
Okay, white, green, brown, black.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because I also heard that the belt system was incorporated when like the Americans started, like foreigners started training, and they were like they needed some sort of indication of progression, like they couldn't just be a white belt for a long time.
They did it before that. Basically, it was for kids.
For kids.
It was originally for children, yeah, because they had instituted the martial arts in the Japanese school system around 1905 initially. And that's when they started putting it in. So it actually was originally for kids because they had so many of them. They needed to figure out which place each kid was at, kind of thing. So that's how they came up, why they came up with it.
It seems like there's
the one blessing I have now is my instructor that I've been working with. I've actually known him since like 2009, 10 on social media. But and we always spoke and exchanged words. He actually gave me a pair of Shiredo Sai a few years back. But I decided to become his student not too long ago. He actually lives in Okinawa. So by trade, he is a linguist or cryptologist. He's a retired Navy Master Chief. So Master Chief is like an E8 or 9 or something like that in the military. Oh, wow. And basically what he did for a living there was he would translate documents, Chinese documents to English, English to Chinese, to Japanese, so on and so forth. He speaks like 5 languages.
Yeah, that's Chinese is hard, and especially
his Chinese is actually better than his Japanese, believe it or not.
I'm pretty sure he had to study more on that because it's like singing. Like if you,
it's possible, yeah.
If you pronounce Chinese, like Chinese, if you pronounce it like
the sounds make a difference.
Is the sound, yeah? Like they go up, it means something. If they go down at the end, it means something else. Like, but Japanese is like, ha, 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 like it's like almost like Spanish.
Actually, there's some words, funny enough, that I was told that some of them sound similar, and a small e or a would change the whole word. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, it's interesting.
In Japanese, you mean?
Yeah, in Japanese too, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Like kawaii or something like that means cute, but if you say like kawaii or something like that, it means something completely different and bad.
Change it. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting like that. But
yeah, the video you shared on Facebook with the different like 5 words that are mispronounced or misused in Japanese.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like the guy was saying that some of them, some people would say the like kia, and you're not supposed to say kia. It just means to yell, and like people are saying
the
kia,
action of,
and it's like say something that has like a because it needs to come from the abdomen instead of like from up here. Mm-hmm. You need to tighten as you do it. So it's like
there's actually
like that is good to know.
In like the jiu-jitsu circles, there are actually words that they use. Also ninjutsu, like they say like to, ha, so. Yeah. So like those 3 sounds are actually like a legit thing, and they will project different energy. It's weird because I've had it like done to me. One of my instructors did some stuff to me, and just the sound and the pronunciation changed the way it felt, and I thought that was odd. I was like, oh snap. But yeah, what's dope about this guy, his name is Scott Mertz for the record, is he lives in Okinawa. He has about maybe 21 years total living in Okinawa. So he lives there now. He's contracted by the Marines to still do the same job. So he's a liaison for the government, translating legal documents, contracts, so on and so forth. But his teachers, they're just amazing, like the guys he's got to train with. His teacher for the last about 14 years is a gentleman named Toyama Zenshu. And Toyama is actually the highest ranking Goju Ryu practitioner in the world. So the guy that was senior to him died. So now it's him. He's 94 years old, this guy. So he trained with a gentleman named Higa Seiko for like over 30 years.
Oh, yeah?
He spent a little bit of time with Miyagi, but he doesn't really call Miyagi one of his instructors because he only spent a little bit of time with him after the war. But he also trained
Miyagi, the
Miyagi Choudhury, the founder.
The founder, but the guy that they used also to reference in the Karate Kid.
The Karate Kid, yeah. Miyagi Choudhury was the founder of Goju-Ryu. And the one crazy thing too, and I even thought this, and I got corrected, was Higa Seiko is a very like big known name in Goju. Higa Seiko was actually Miyagi's dojo brother, not a student, and he was actually his senior, believe it or not.
His senpai.
So they had a lot of the same teachings, and what he was teaching was similar, a little bit more aggressive, and he even tried to call his school something different. But every time they saw him, because he was always with Miyagi, they were like, "Oh, you teach that Goju-Ryu stuff, right?" And apparently, I was told that he used to get infuriated by it. But after a while, he was just like, "You know what? Screw it. Whatever. Yeah, I teach Goju."
All right, let me take a break. I want to welcome you to my show, Kevin.
Thank you.
Kevin Pereira, right?
Yes, sir.
Martial artist from the Bronx, known world round. And we met at Sato when I was training there. You know, I just want to give a little background.
We met a long time ago, man.
Dude, I think it's almost 20 years.
Yeah, at least.
No, more, because I started Sato 2005.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when I started. And you were already there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Isn't that crazy? How time goes like this?
It just flies, man. Yeah, man.
It really does.
So you were saying?
We were talking. It's funny because I'm such a talker. But yeah, it was just funny how martial arts history is like that, where guys were like dojo brothers, but they always thought that he was one of his students, but he wasn't. He actually doing his own thing. He actually taught Miyagi a lot of things because he would pick up katas and be like, "Yo, bro, check this out." That kind of vibe. I mean, that wasn't really the conversation. But there's two friends that trained with the same teacher. Although he was a senior, he'd pick stuff up from guys. He'd like, "Yo, check this out," and then teach it to Miyagi, and then Miyagi would alter it. Like Seiyuchin, Miyagi altered at around 1925 or 1930. He changed it. Seiyuchin was originally done in Sanjidachi.
Okay.
So it came from a guy named...
Seiyuchin is the one that you learn at black belt level?
Yeah. Well, actually in Okinawa, it's like an orange belt kata.
Orange belt?
It is. It's a super beginner kata. The way it works is usually you do maybe a little bit higher. It's Sanchin, Tensho, Geksai-ich, Geksai-ni, Seiyuchin. So you probably, realistically, probably like a blue belt, green belt kata.
Okay.
So it's a lot lower in the ranks than people would think. But yeah. So that kata is pretty cool because it's in a semblance of Chinese military drills.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, so like, because how does it start? Doesn't it go up? And then like...
Yeah, because basically what that is there was a gentleman that spent some time in the Chinese military, right? And he had spent time in the military. Let me get the exact spelling of his name because I have it here. I don't want to spell it incorrectly. Because what I try to do is every time Sensei tells me stuff, I write it all down. So I just want to make sure that I spell it right because I'm going to say it.
Hey, man, ever since I've met you, you've been like my martial art encyclopedia. You always have like this deep knowledge of the past, of where things come from. You're always so super enthusiastic. And it used to make me more like enthusiastic of like, oh, for real? That's where it comes from? Like, and then I had to like Google it and check it out. So I'm always like thrilled for you to be just sharing your information.
Well, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I've always been like that because the thing about it is like, and this is actually why I decided to train with Scott. Scott trains with Tenshu Toyama Zenshu, sorry. And he also trained with a guy named Mieki Kurishita, who was a direct student of Miyagi. And he also trained with Yagi Mitoku, who was a direct student of Miyagi. Yagi Mitoku was actually the first person Miyagi ever gave permission to while he was alive to teach Goju-Ryu.
Okay.
So since he was so close to the source, I wanted to learn from him because I wanted to know the why, the how. When you start seeing the oyo, like the application of these katas, it's like, holy shit. Like even Geksai, there's a lot of breaks and like it's mean. Like when you really see the original version of the katas and the intent of the movement, it's crazy. Even Seiyuchin, excuse me, there's movements in Seiyuchin that aren't what people think they are. Like, you know, the part that looks like it's two Gedan Barais in Kibadachi?
Yeah.
They're actually it's basically an arm bar and then a throw, and it's in Shikodachi.
Okay.
So it's a crossing of the hands. But the guy's name was Sakiyama Kitoku. Sakiyama, and then Kitoku's Kitoku. Sakiyama Kitoku was in the Chinese military from 1840 to 1850. And then he came back to Okinawa, and he taught the kata to a gentleman named Kuriyoshi. And Kuriyoshi taught it to Higaseko, and Higaseko taught it to Miyagi, and then Miyagi changed it. But what the gentleman did was he liked the drills. He thought they were valid. He was like, I like them. They're nice. Because every morning they would work out. They would work out, and they did these drills as a part of their daily training. So because they did that, he wanted to find a way to carry that kind of like on and teach it to people. Like, these are cool, valid drills that we do. They're part of our workout. So he just put it together in a pattern. And there you go. That's pretty much Seiyuchin.
Wow. It's
and it's the only kata that actually still has its Chinese name. Seiyuchin means to grab, to seize and grab and like hold, like to hold and seize, like to snatch something up. Yeah, and if you see in the kata, there's a lot of that. Snatch the head, because this movement here that everybody does this, it's actually 1, 2. There's just a block, a hook blocking a hook punch, snatching the head, and what you do is when you come under the oil, the application is actually a hirakin to the throat.
Oh, to the throat.
Yeah, so you're snatching the guy. So the actual movement is the guy's throwing a mwashigiri, and you're blocking it this way. Then you're hammering, fisting his leg down. And then when he comes down, he's going to try to hit you with this hand. So you block it, catch his head, hit him in the throat. So there's a lot of that. And that's actually part of the reason why I started studying with him, is because I'm like, this guy's material is insane. So, yeah.
So, like, just to get a bit of you, like, at what age did you start, like, getting
I started training, believe it or not, super young. I was 5 years old.
5.
And I started training originally in jiu-jitsu. And I
saw
the
popular one now on the ground, or the Japanese
jiu-jitsu. So when I saw The Perfect Weapon, I wanted to do Kempo. I think we had that conversation.
I love that movie.
I wanted to do American Kempo.
Mm-hmm. Yo, what was his name? What's this guy?
Jeff Speakman.
Speedman, yeah. When he fucks up that couch when he's training, I was like, that's what I want to do. I was like, when I wanted to do
Kempo, and I couldn't find it. And it's funny enough because there was a Kempo school in the Bronx. I came to find out where the guy was exactly, but I went to go look for it. I couldn't find it. And my cousins were training with Nakamura, Sato. And this was Jesus. I started there originally like in 1993 or something like that.
Okay.
The original, when I first started, was it 93? 94.
I did a little Kempo because I found when I saw the movie, I was like, I need to find this. I was like 14, 15. I was in junior high, getting my ass whooped every day. And I was just like, I was a big bobo. I was like just walking around all shy and shit. People picked on me. So it was just like the tall guy, pick on him because I didn't look people in the eye or anything like that. So I looked like a target. And when I saw that movie, I was like, yo, this guy just goes into places and just like destroys them. And so I looked for one, and I found one by word of mouth in Washington Heights. And it was just like this Dominican Sensei Edward. And it was pretty much, he was just renting the dance hall in a high school. And you just had to pay like $20 a month to help him pay for the rent. He didn't even want money for himself. He was like, you buy your own gi and like you just go from there. Everybody had like different colors, white, black.
Really?
It was like a mixed school because he just wanted to help kids, from the area. And he would just do it like twice a week. And like that's what got me into like martial arts. Like his course was tough. No gear. We just the clothing and the floor. And and when we sparred, it wasn't like this sparring nowadays, like points or anything like that. It was like he knew the area that we lived in, and like I don't know, he probably went extra hard on me because I was just like no confidence, no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So when we would fighting and like the other, because they were different levels, like he would just put you to fight, and they would put me on the ground and shit, and he wouldn't stop it. He would just tell me what to do to get out. He would guide me, you know, and like.
And that's the best way to do it because you're living by experience, and that's real coaching there too.
You know, it changed my life. Like, and we only did it for a year because then he moved, and he opened a school somewhere else, and I couldn't follow because I just lived in the Heights at that time. But like, just that training for a year, I like advanced one belt. For him, it was like white, yellow, so I got yellow, and then like a medium, like a patch, and then you go to the next belt. But I only got to yellow because he was only there for a year, and we only did it like twice a week, so it wasn't like something that you could do every day. But my life changed after that. Nobody picked on me. I walked different. Like I was more aware.
You. Martial arts really does change you, especially if you have a valid teacher who teaches you well and believes in you and gives you a sense of community. Because that's the thing I've noticed about the arts is either there's dojos that feel like family and there's dojos that feel like a cult. And it's about knowing the difference. It's one thing to do for your sensei because you care for them, right?
Yeah.
It's another thing to do for your sensei because they're like, yo, that guy can't carry his own bag. You have to bow down to him and carry his bag. That's excessive.
That's a bit.
But I believe, and I've developed this too with my last few teachers, is you have to build a bond, right? Like one of my instructors, he's taught me a few things actually. We did sword together, Iai-jitsu. We did jujitsu. We did some taijutsu. We did some kabuto. So we would do like 4-hour training, but hour blocks of different stuff. And he and I talk every day still. He lives in Oregon. He moved for a girl. Leon Major's his name. And I've known him now like 12 years or something like that.
Okay.
And he moved. He moved. He's probably going to see this and be like, what the fuck? But yeah, he moved for a woman. He got married. So he is married to, he has a family.
Man, I went all the way to Michigan for a girl. So
see, I've done stupid things. So
we've all done it.
We all done it. But, you have to build some bond for your sensei. But to be cultish is a little much. And, we both know from that experience that, and I've spoken to people who've left and they give you that same vibe. They could tell you, yeah, this is why I left because of this, because of that.
Well, there was no, for me, don't want to actually get too much detail into it, but it was just when I needed something, they weren't really there for me. They were just
that's the problem with them is they were all about them.
Yeah.
I've heard stories, man, that I'm like, and I won't even name names, the stories where that whole benefit fund that was supposed to help underprivileged kids wouldn't because it was all about money and things like that. And then you hear that and it turns you off because you're like, you gave to this place, you give your heart to a place. And then, if you leave to better yourself and do something else, they make you feel like shit about it. Or they talk bad about you to people. That's not a martial arts way. I've had students that gone and done other things. I mean, not really, but they'll ask, like, hey, can I do this too? But they won't leave me completely. That's cool. When you try to hold your student like this, that's when they want to run away.
But it's like, it's martial arts about learning and it's about advancing. And it's, and like my first martial art master was Bruce Lee because I watched all his movies. Like when I was a kid, I heard that my dad, like, I didn't grow up with my dad, but I heard that my dad liked Bruce Lee movies. And then like I started watching them and I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. And then I started getting more into his philosophy about, because he learned that like when he was doing Wing Chun, that it wasn't just, you couldn't just use Wing Chun. Because what happens when this happens? What happens when this happens? So you have to like adjust, So like when you're part of one system and then they don't let you adventure out to learn more for your own knowledge, it feels kind of like contra the martial arts, like against it, because you're supposed to be progressing.
Big time. And it's almost hypocritical. Because the thing about it is I can understand if a sensei has a lot to offer you in terms of this. Just because someone has a name and because I'm gonna say it, fuck it, because they're Asian or because they're old, doesn't mean that they know everything.
Of course
Because if you ask somebody, and I'll give you an example, and I've actually experienced this myself because we did a class with Toyama Zenshu recently. And, he let my students, Sensei let my students come too. So he's like, anybody who's affiliated with you can come. So it was like a big special class. You know how much Zenshu asked for it? How much money we were charged?
what was that?
0.
See, because it's about the
2-hour
learning
class.
experience.
2-hour class, no money. Guess what else he did? He showed an entire 2 katas, and not only showed us the applications, but showed us alternatives to the applications. Whatever questions we had, he answered them. Like, my sensei had to translate Japanese, but he would answer whatever. And that's the thing about Okinawan masters that I noticed, or, senseis, they don't like the term master in Okinawa, is if you say, why am I standing like this? It's not, just do. It's, because your balance is like this, and because that, they'll explain it to you. So you're like, that makes sense, because everything was modeled after regular movement. Like Neko Ashidachi, the real Neko Ashidachi. Actual Neko Ashidachi is what Seidon Kyokushin used to call Koku Tadachi. Their back stance is the actual cat stance.
Okay.
So the cat stance they do just is some made up stance. It's not done. Like, it's just made it up somewhere. So the actual Koku Tadachi is the real cat stance. So that stance was actually developed to mimic pulling on a rope.
Okay.
So if you look at the stance, right,
But
and you have your hand,
you're leaning back, right?
You're leaning back, exactly. Because in Goju, when you retreat, it's always Neko Ashidachi. Always. When you're going backwards, it's always Neko Dachi. That's like their key thing. Either 45 or back, it's always that one stance. It's interesting, but I've noticed that. And their whole thing behind it is the Naha guys were like pirates, essentially, right? Or like the Navy, if you think about it. They had to train people to be on boats for the trade, because all the Naha guys were really Chinese. So those guys were all merchants and things like that. So they needed a system where they can help with balance and they could be able to move effectively on ships. And if you look at all the stances, the real Sanchindachi, because that's another thing I learned too, is that Sanchindachi they would be doing all this time is in the real Sanchindachi. And the real Sanchindachi actually looks more like Kazura Heikodachi, where it's just like your feet are more parallel. The front one's turned in just a little, but your knees are still pointing forward. So that's also mimicking, like, if somebody's trying to do judo on you and you're trying to hold your ground, that's the stance. So the way they taught it to me was put one leg in front of the other and lean against the wall, like push the wall, and the way your front foot will turn, that's Sankinachi.
Okay.
And it actually makes sense because your blade of your foot will line up with a straight stick and your toe just turns in a little bit. So it's things like that. So I decided to train with him because of that, because of the history, because of the knowledge, because I can ask him, what is this for? And he'll give me an answer that's like brutal. And that's the other thing that I learned is the actual Okinawan karate is super rough. Like, they even have wrestling teams. All the dojos have wrestling teams. It's a part of the curriculum where they have to grapple with each other.
Well, it's neat.
They have no rules. The only rule is that you can't pull in the eyes, pull the hair, or hit the groin.
Like, wrestling is good because you're using a lot of like stabilizing muscles.
Mm-hmm.
You're learning how to manipulate weight, and like distancing, and also how to leverage. So
exactly,
once you get in there and you start doing that, like every class should have like a segment of that, because one, it'll take the fear of you being on somebody or somebody being on you. And a lot of classes, like nowadays, it's all about softening it, making it like nerfing the martial arts so that everybody can participate. That's a big problem in the United States of America. Understandably, because the insurance is like super high, because you can get sued for any little thing now in the United States. But martial arts should have some sort of semblance of being uncomfortable to learn to be comfortable in a bad situation.
Exactly. You should be out of your comfort zone always.
They shouldn't.
Once you're comfortable, then you become complacent. You become lazy.
Yeah. No, and if you're going somewhere to learn to defend yourself and they're nerfing it, when you're outside, they're not going to nerf it. They're going to come at you. They're going to come at you. You're going to be uncomfortable. And if you've never experienced that, you're going to freak out and freeze, everybody has a plan till you get punched in the face.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah,
So,
it has to be. It has to be some sense of realism. Even like for example, because of everything that's going on, I do a lot of stuff. I'm doing all my stuff on Zoom, but I encourage my students, especially when we do our Buki Jits or Kubudo, most people call it. Buki just means weapon, Jits is art. So when we do all the weapon stuff, I tell them, I'm like, get a bag or get a person. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Whatever you want to do. Hit somebody with this. Feel it. Have somebody hold focus mitts. I do a lot of drills where, my student will hold focus mitts and I'll just rock the shit out of them with the tonfa, with the side, with the bow. I'll just hit them. Because in Okinawa, they wear kendo gear and they actually fight with the weapons. But I can't afford kendo gear because it's like $3,000. Good ones.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm just gonna hit heavy bags and bob and pads.
Yeah. No, I've seen some tournaments where they'll wear the face mask and stuff like that, and they go
guard, yeah.
They go full force on each other, and like that's an actual, application of the martial arts. Like
exactly, the Eskrima guys do that.
Yeah,
the Filipino stick with the Filipino sticks, and the reality is there has to be that. And then the whole, you don't learn a weapon until you're Shodan doesn't make any sense at all either. Over there, you learn it like blue belt. You start learning.
No, like most martial arts, they start teaching it, even if they're just teaching you like basic movements in order for you not to get hurt. But they they give you the weapon so that as you grow and learn, you're getting used to the weight. You're getting the muscles to hold it. You don't want to just wait however long it takes you to get a black belt, like 4 to 5 years, depending on the art, or even longer. And then give them this thing that now they don't have the forearm strength or the hand strength to hold it. And then you want them to hold it and do this kata. And now it's not realistic.
It's not. It really isn't. And then even some of the movements that some schools do, you're like, where did you learn? Where did your Kabuto come from? Because a lot of these guys, you can tell, make that shit up. And, I actually had the discussion with, I have a thread, like an actual, conversational thread with my students. And we joke, we're serious, but we still joke around and play. We make jokes, we mess around. But one of the things we had talked about was lineage. How lineage is important. Because, one of them was kind of like, well, how important is it? I said, the reason why it matters is this. If I tell you, this is my remote, right? You're going to be like, where did this remote come from? You're not just going to say it's the remote. What remote is this? Well, it comes from Amazon. Oh, that's your answer. So I say, look at this kata, and you're like, where the fuck did that kata come from? Oh, I don't know. You know what I mean? Yeah, and the thing about it is that's the history of a lot of martial arts in this country. People will do a kata and not know at all.
Well,
do you know how many people know that Sakayama Kitoku created Seochin? How many people know that came from a Chinese military drills?
Yeah, they don't know. And
then when you tell them, they want to look at you like you're crazy. And I'm like, no. Or if you tell them that Miyagi created Tensho and where Tensho comes from, there's a kata called Rukusho. And that comes from Rukusho. Rukusho comes from actually a Wing Chun drill. I think it's called Silum Tao. So Silum Tao gave birth to Rukusho. Rukusho gave birth to Tensho.
Okay.
And that's exactly how it happened. Then if you ask somebody, what's the purpose of Tensho? Well, I don't know. And it's actually to teach you how to use Shuto Mawashi Uke.
Yeah, a lot of people
what Seido calls Shuto Ike Uke, and Goju is Shuto Mawashi Uke.
Yeah. Like a lot of people learn a kata and they'll just learn the choreography, but they won't learn what they're doing and how to apply it. Like
that's the sad part, because you see that a lot, and even the instructors don't know either.
Yeah, what's it called? The application of the kata.
It's actually called Oyo.
Oyo, yeah.
Practical application is Oyo.
Yeah, like when I started learning kata, I started trying to think instead of just learning the movement. Like, what am I doing? Exactly. And why am I doing it? A lot of the people are like, oh my God, these stances are unrealistic. Yeah, they're not realistic because they're training your legs to support your weight in a certain stance. And also they move in a certain way to maybe throw somebody off balance or how to move in a certain direction. So that's part of that. There's more, and then the hands, they'll do this and they'll do that. But it's like you're not just moving them, you know, like you're locking. Sometimes you're blocking, locking, and punching.
Exactly.
And like, you know, and
Well, it looks like a block, and that's what they call ogiwaza in Okinawa, which means hidden or secret technique. Is it might look like a block, but it's actually a strike.
yeah. And the thing is, like, repetition and keep doing it and thinking about it and adding some sort of intention behind it. It's building muscle memory, and also your brain is starting to get used to it. So when you're in a fight, it's like when you play chess a lot, when you start playing the chess with somebody, the moves will just come. You'll just see it before, you know. But if you just, like you start putting things together without knowing that, because you've been doing all these katas and repetition, that your body now is reactive to certain movements. And
exactly. And it's funny because Joe Rogan actually did a podcast where he had said that there was a study that showed that the fighters that actually do kata do better in the ring.
No.
It was an actual study, because kata really is shadow boxing.
It's shadow boxing, and you're meditating. You're focusing your mind and the movement. You know, when I used to do kata, like, I would zone out. Like, I would just be focused. And that helped me, so that if I'm in a situation, I'm not panicking. I can focus, you know?
Exactly.
So it's like, it has this purpose. People nowadays, everything is a shortcut. They want to get to the top. So they don't want to do kata because they don't see the application. They want to just hit the bag. They want to start fighting and all this. And like, that's why people get hurt, you know, and then you get hurt and you don't want to come back. You don't want to keep training.
It's funny because last night I was doing these drills. You know how we used to do keyhole drills, whatever, you know, block, you know, punch, come back, inside block, whatever. So I was doing them, and then I said, okay, we're going to do it this way. We'll do 20 reps, and then we're going to turn it into a combative, more, I don't want to say combative. I said more of a fighting stance looking situation. Because even for us, we practice a lot of things from Fudodachi, because the reality is in the street, you're standing in Fudodachi. Now, depending on how you move, all comes from that one stance. You can shoot, you know, 45, cat stance, 45 here, Shizen dachi, do whatever you got to do. But we were turning something simple, like it would be, what was the actual movement we did? We did from here, back, up. So we turned this into a punch. So I literally went 1, let's say this gets blocked, 2, jaw. So I'm going to jab them, punch them, and come under the jaw with this one, which is really 1, 2, 1, 2. So when you see it in that context, it's like, oh, snap, you know? But people don't give that variation of it. They just tell you to stand in the corner, do a bunch of punches. They don't tell you why. They don't give you the application, and they don't make it realistic, you know, at all. And I have even beginners from like the first day I start explaining applications to all these movements that, you know, I still do them, but I just have my flavor. Because my intent really now with the system is to try to preserve the original intent of what karate was developed for. It was a system purely made for self-defense. And to bring up Jesse again, like I did earlier, he's actually one guy that I like a lot because he perpetuates a lot of these things and people listen to him. 2 reasons. I think A, because he's a handsome white guy, and B, because it's the truth. Nobody's gonna listen to me. That's why I made that post the other day when I was like, nobody listens to the brown dude. And, you know, he has an audience. So he even said there's 3 types of karate. And the first and main one, the purposeful one, is for self-defense only. Then we have our sport karate, you know, and then it goes on from there. You know, the sport karate, there's the full contact karate. Full contact karate meaning like kyokushin, things like that. The more sporty stuff are things like
point fighting.
Like point fighting and things like that. And then the self-defense based, the reality-based ones, because over there, the stances aren't the low stances that we used to do. They're all upright. Because they believe, Higaseko used to believe that if you had to fight to get into a stance, that means you have to fight to get out of the stance. And if that's the case, you're not going to be able to fight at all. Yeah. So they have a method that when you're in a stance, they say, Toby, jump. So if you can't jump from your stance right away without adjusting yourself, you're doing it wrong. That's the mentality. So everything is super like up. Shikodachi just looks like they're putting somebody in an armbar. So you're not super deep and your legs aren't super wide. You're just squatting low.
Right.
And not low, just like a soft squat, like you have someone in an armbar, because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
So the idea that I'm trying to do is really show that karate has locks, karate has throws, karate has all these manipulations, and can be effective if you do it right, the old school way, in a competitive method, in another kind of arena, if you needed to do so. Because I have students that do MMA, I have students that are police officers, I have students that are security in other countries, Australia and places like that. So over there, they're actually more like peace officers. They get to carry tasers and things of that nature. So, the stuff works. It's just a matter of how you're teaching it. If you're teaching somebody, I'm going to do Kihon Waza in the class, and then when I do Kumite, it looks like kickboxing. What did you really teach them? That the shit that they've been learning all this time doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with it.
When you're sparring, everybody's just punching and kicking. And then, like, what happens to, all the blocks and all the locks, and then maybe a throw or a sweep or something.
Exactly. None of those things are parry. There's no parry. It's just like, punch, punch, block, block, kick, and that's it.
When you're doing Kumite, it should try to incorporate all that. Even if you can try to control the Kumite instead of letting it like free form, maybe give them an objective. Like I did, I took a couple of classes of Krav Maga, and like I really liked the way they, at the end of the class, they pretty much stress you to do the technique that they taught in the beginning of the class. So the beginning of the class, you do all this warm up, you do all these exercises, and then you go through like different techniques and stuff like that. And then towards the end, they'll do something where somebody will attack you with a lot of aggression, pretty much like a hold. They're not going to hit you. They just come and try to grab you from behind or something. And you have to like react. Like you have to get them off you no matter what. And like,
makes perfect sense.
Or what they'll do is they'll make you do like 20 jumping jacks, and then somebody will grab you. And then you have to do something you have to do that technique that they taught you. So they'll make you kind of like under stress, try to do the technique that you just learned during the class instead of just doing it in the air the whole time and never within any distance of somebody, because you won't get that, you won't be able to adjust. Somebody taller, somebody shorter, somebody has longer limbs. It's like they'll give you different opponents, different weight, different height, and try to get you to do the same technique to see how you adjust to the different. But they'll also make you do some obscure workout and then turn around and do it, so that your mind has to refocus and redo it. And I feel like it's not exactly close or exactly the same as out in the street, but it gives your mind something to overcome instead of just trying to do the technique.
Because it's
like you're waiting for the opponent, because when the opponent's coming. Like, it's like when you get that safety of always knowing, oh, he's going to do this. And, it reminds me of that Jim Carrey skit where he's
you're supposed to do it like this.
He's like, stab me, and they like keep stabbing him differently. He's like, no, you have to do it like this. It's the only way I know how to block it. Every time I see that, I die laughing.
Because that's the way a lot of the schools work. What I've incorporated is something that came from Sensei is we'll do kumite with kata. Okay. So, for example, you tell somebody, Geksai ich, Geksai ni. He's going to come at you. Whatever you do, they have to be techniques from that kata. I don't care what. So it's free fighting. You're moving around, but you have to defend yourself with movements from the kata.
Okay.
And if you do something that's not in those katas, 50 push-ups. So now it gives you parameters. Because if you really examine that kata, there's a lot of stuff you can use.
Yeah. The
blocks, the parries, coming into somebody, body tracing. There's a lot of concepts in that kata. So if somebody can't take, because there's two of them in Goju, right? One of them ends with the Owase-zuki and the other one ends with Mawashi-uke. So if you can't, and also one of them has kake and the other one has just a regular here. So if you can't defend yourself with all those tools, there's a problem. Right? So you have to use something from the kata. I don't care what it looks like, long as it's from the kata.
No,
and that's
and
kind of a
that'll help
method that
people.
I feel works well.
Yeah, that'll help people to like kind of visualize what they're doing, actually see it applied, and that helps a lot. You
Yeah,
know,
it does.
you don't want your students to just go through the motions and then you give them the belts just because the money's coming in, and like they get
Exactly.
somewhat of a confidence, and it's really they're just getting a workout. You know.
That's all it is. You're getting a belt for working out
Yeah.
because they can recite the movements, but can they tell you why they're doing them?
Or can they actually do them,
Use them.
like in a stressful situation? You
Exactly. Because another thing I try to do is I blindfold them. I'll blindfold them and I'll just have people grab them like randomly.
Yeah.
It could be a scary experience for people because I like.
Well,
but
fights are scary.
exactly.
Nobody's really ever ready for a fight unless you fight every day. Unless you're of that mindset. You know, you've been fighting since you were a kid. You know.
And even then it's still different too because, you know, you never know if this guy's got a weapon. So like your stuff is running through your mind, you know?
Yeah, you don't know what the other person knows, you know.
Exactly.
As you fight or if you train, you could tell.
You can see by somebody's body movement.
By
they
body
really
movement,
they say
the way they
too.
hold themselves. If they got cauliflower ears, you're like, oh, I'm not going to the ground with this guy.
Yeah, these guys are a grappler. Yep.
You know, like if their hands are like calloused and shit, or their knuckles, like if you see the little calluses that build up, you're like, oh, this guy's a puncher. Like you start realizing things when you like.
You're in the game. You can see by someone's body movement, their language.
Yeah, the way they hold themselves.
You can tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, this guy's a martial artist. Or you can be like, this guy thinks he's a martial artist. He probably took 2 classes or watches a lot of UFC.
All right, like you can tell when people train or they've done it for a few times. You know, like
definitely.
They have some experience. Like they walk in, they carry themselves different. Like they're in their situations most likely. Yeah.
Yeah. My least favorite people are the I know that too people. Oh, I've done that before. That's nice. Do it again.
Oh yeah. Every class I always take, I never tell them, oh, I'm a black belt over here. I'm just like, I'm here. I just want to take whatever. Because I used to buy, when Groupon started, oh my God. I'd buy 5 classes here, 5 classes over there, but I would never tell them. And as soon as I'm in there and I'm doing the movement, they're like, you know something. They would always kind of like, especially when I did a couple Muay Thai classes. And I never told them like, oh, I'm a black belt in this martial arts, blah, blah, blah. I just go in. I just want them to treat me as a beginner. Because I'm not going to be like, oh, I know how to do a Mawashi Geti. I know how to do front kicks. I know how to do sweeps, whatever. I'm just like, teach me and I'll absorb. Yeah, but I'm not even trying to go in like I'm in disguise or anything like that. I just really want to learn. So I go into these classes and like a few minutes in, once we do a technique, they'll be like, you have experience. And then they start going harder, which I like because, you know, I got in it for like, I like fighting, you know, even though I've never really, after I started martial arts, I never really had an actual fight in the streets. Only when I was bouncing though. But come on, when you're bouncing, everybody gets drunk and then they want to.
Exactly, you have to do it.
Yeah.
But it's a different type of adrenaline rush when it comes to an argument or something. Yeah.
When you're bouncing, you're on alert. You're there.
Yep, you're expecting it.
But when you're just walking around, it's different, you know.
Yeah, and then some dude wants to mess with you for no fucking reason. You're like, dude, really?
Dude, I have a story that happened to me right before my black belt test. The week of, like, you know how in Sado, like this, it's like a whole month to get your black belt, like the whole test is like every.
I remember. Yeah.
When I got into that month, and I think I was almost getting close to like the final classes, the final part of the test, I went to this bar with some friend of mine's, and this small bodybuilding type guy, he was like little, like pumping his chest, and he wouldn't put his arms down. Complex. Yeah, he totally Napoleon complex. And like, I was just chilling. It was 2 girls. They weren't my girlfriends, but we were in the group and another friend, you know, so we were in a group of 4. And And I had a girlfriend. You know me. I had a girlfriend at the time. I was dating Barbara. So you remember. And so I was just hanging out. And then this guy was with another friend. And they were like hitting on every girl and getting like turned down. But there was this one girl he kept coming to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she totally like she ignored him.
She like dubbed him. Mm-hmm.
Dubbed him. And like he felt, all right. So he just went. But then she sat next to our group, right?
Oh,
we
shit.
had, like, long benches. And she
Mm-hmm.
sat and like we were joking around and she started their group started interacting with our group.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like I wanted to talk to her. She just sat down and she was talking like actually to the girls that I was with. We were all joking. But she sat next to me. This guy comes back from the bathroom. He's like looking at me. And I'm not like as big as him, you know. I'm just tall. I guess that's what he thought. And he got upset. He starts coming at me. And I'm just like, oh my God. I diffused the situation by kind of like submitting. Because I know in New York, it doesn't matter who started. You're both getting arrested. You know, and it was Friday night. We wouldn't get out till like Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, luckily he didn't touch me because that's what I was waiting for.
Yeah, that's the opening.
He was just like, he tried to get in my face. He was like here. He was like here. He was looking up to me and he was like just starting some shit for a girl that is not even his. Like, just because she sat next to me and she totally rejected him and she was laughing, not at me. Like I wasn't joking with her. She was just like we were interacting with the group and she was enjoying it. And he thought it was me. And
you were super funny or some shit.
Yeah. Like what does he have that
and I don't
have? So he like started.
I was like 13 inches, bitch. Plátano maduro.
Yeah. Like for real. And like, he just really got in my face and he started going like, yo, we could do whatever. We could go outside. We could get knives. I got guns in the car, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, dude, like, this is not worth it. Like, just get a drink, go do your thing. I'm not even hitting on that girl. And he's just like, oh, he's getting in my face and he's this and that. And I just had to like, kind of be like, dude, it's whatever, man. Like, I make him feel like he could take me. Yeah, so just leave me alone. Like, you got this. It's all you. It's your night. You got this. Like, whatever. But like the whole situation, I'm just like, there's a bottle right there. There's this right here. I could just elbow him in the face. I wouldn't even have to reach. You know, I'm just like, I already knew.
Fucking bottle.
But he never touched me. He was just like, you know how they like get in your face and then do all this stuff?
They're waiting for you to react first.
He wanted me to hit him. But I was like, no. Because I'm more of a counter hitter too. So like as soon as he would come, I would just grab, boom, some shit that you taught me would have just came out, you know. But it was just that, you know, and it was like some people just come out of nowhere for both.
I know people be coming out of pocket sometimes, and you're like, yo, dude, relax. It's not that serious.
You know, because and that's another reason that I stopped bouncing, because dudes, especially in groups, they would come in hype. They're like, I'm gonna get a girl, whatever they're thinking in their head. I'm gonna pop bottles, girls are gonna come. Whatever they're thinking in their head, it doesn't turn out the way they want,
and they act like dicks.
And now they're still hyped up. So now they want to prove their manhood, and they'll start fights just to like prove their man, like just so that their night it's like some sort of epicness or some shit.
So they got a story to tell somebody. They didn't get laid.
They'll start a fight with like whoever they think is a dweeb, or they'll start a fight with the bouncers. You know, and it's just like
don't move.
It was because you know I just have to flash the light, and like we're all gonna take you out, like you know.
Exactly.
It's like, but that situation was just too much for me. Like for the money,
it wasn't worth it.
It wasn't worth it at the end of the night. Like it's good, and sometimes it's cash and it's straight, you know. And I've had situations because I've bounced like for a whole night by myself, and then people like I bounced on a New Year's by myself. Even though on that block there was other like bars and stuff that if I needed help they would come. but that like I was just there by myself. And the good thing is sometimes people will tip you because they think like you'll get them in or some shit like that. I'm like, it's free to get in, but whatever.
Thanks.
I'll take it, but like it's not always. You're not always getting that money unless you do some side hustle, which bouncers usually do. Like, they'll take your ID and sell it back to you or some stupid shit like that.
We'll sell you back weed and shit or coke.
yeah. Bouncers, they'll figure out how to make money because like straight pay is usually not enough, to get punched in the face or some shit.
Not worth it.
It's not worth it.
The only good thing is if you are like, a martial artist who wants to test your stuff, it is a good place to like toss people around. Like, I know it works because I fucking threw somebody on their head.
You take somebody in the lock and you pull them up and you walk them out and they don't even know what's going on. I had a
student that used to bounce at this place, and I remember he invited me and another student there, and I saw him take out 2 guys twice his size. I was like, holy shit. I was like, yo, his name was Julian. I was like, yo, Pete, Julian's getting busy. And you can see him. He was radioing for the other dudes to come, and they never showed up. They showed up after the fact.
No, that's the worst. When you're in a corner and nobody's seeing the flashlight, or you don't have the time to like flash the light, and you have to deal with the situation by yourself in the dark with the little disco lights and shit.
Exactly. And he put it on
in the eye. Dudes. You can't see if they have a knife or some shit. It's crazy.
I was so happy, man. I gave him a little stripe on his belt the next day. I was like, hey, put some tape on your belt.
Dude, that's how it used to be. Like, you would have to kind of like prove yourself to get the next rank. I think they still do that with some martial arts. These guys would tell me some stories.
And not that I didn't believe it because I knew the stuff worked. There were too many stories coming back. And I'm like, But some of them had jobs. Like some people were corrections. Some people were, what's it called? Department of Homeless Services, DHS. So they used to deal with shelters. Julian was a bouncer at night, but during the day, he was like a behavioral crisis interventional guy where if the kids were in a special school and they were acting up, he would have to go like put them in locks and like restrain them. So that's originally why he came to me, because he was trying to learn locking.
Yeah.
He's like, I need to learn how to restrain somebody. Hurt them without it looking like I'm hurting them, if that makes sense. No. So, and he would tell me all the time, yo, I had to put it on some kid today. And it's funny because you hear kid, but you're like, you keep forgetting these are kids that have been left back 12 times. So it's really a 20-year-old with a beard. And he would tell me these stories, and I'm like, damn. But I had a corrections guy take 2 classes. And he literally came back and said that he did one of the techniques on the 3rd day. So after 2 classes, he goes, yo, you know that umbrella technique you taught us? I was like, yeah. He said, I did that shit. He had like something in his hand, like a flashlight, and he used the flashlight against the guy. And I was like, that's pretty badass.
Like a lock?
Yeah, because I was using the umbrella to come around and choke somebody with it, like a rear naked choke.
Yeah.
So I bring it around the head, and I put the umbrella on the poke him with my arm here, and then squeeze it and put it, because it's a light, and then hold it this way. Okay. So he said he did it with a flashlight, like the long flashlight. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. And he showed me how he did it, because he had the flashlight with him, and I believed him, but I'm like, damn. It feels good when you know that people are being able to protect themselves with your stuff. You know, I've had parents tell me, oh, my kid, he beat up these 2 kids that were bothering him all the time. Thank you. I'd rather hear that than be like, yeah, Jimmy got a straight A. Cool, that's nice. Yeah. But then was he able to defend himself?
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I try not to teach kids now. I teach mostly adults and like some like young teens, like 17, 16. But I try to stay away from the little guys because I really want to push the whole original intent. A lot of the original intent is fucked up, man. Like you're going for eye gouges and fish hooks.
Because it was life and death back
then. And I'm using a lot of weaponry. You know, we're using sai, kama, nunchaku, roku shakubo, tambo. It's a lot of different stuff. So if you have a kama and you're explaining like you're basically gutting a guy, you can't tell that to a kid. They're gonna be like,
what? And they go and Google that. And they're like, oh no.
And they see it and they're like, oh snap, you know? So I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So, you know, with the adults, it's easy to tell them this is what a nunchaku's for. It's not for flailing. It's for locking, choking, throwing, takedowns. And they're like, oh, shit. And, you know, you can actually demonstrate that on them. And make, you know, I have a video actually where I did a few techniques, one of my students on Saturday. So, you know, it's a blessing that, you know, I've been put in a position now because of Zoom that I actually have more people in a like wider audience than ever. you know,
no, I've
and I
seen it.
don't have to leave my room.
You've been posting a lot, and the content is really good. And I see that you're getting you got that note. What was it? Century Martial Arts.
Yeah, today Century Martial Arts posted a highlight video.
A story about you.
Yeah,
I watched it.
I
commented on every shot. I commented. I put something, so they know they did the right shit. Yo, give you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And it started on TikTok. They started liking my videos on TikTok. Then they followed me. Then they commented the video, and they were like, "It's good to know that traditional martial arts weapons isn't dead." And then they made another comment. You know, it's good to see somebody out there promoting traditional martial arts. Cool. So we started interacting a little bit, and I said, you know, because it was a Torfa video, and I was like, you know, those are actually Century, Abugatos from Century. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, those are the Okinawan style ones. Cool. So we were talking, and then it came out to a thing was like, oh, is there a way I can share your TikTok videos on my Instagram? I was like, you should. And, you know, for some reason they weren't able to. So they said, well, send us a video. I said, okay. And, you know, people tell you they're going to share something, but I didn't think they were really going to do it. They did it.
No, that's pretty awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. It took them less than 24 hours. I sent that video last night, like late last night, like 10 o'clock.
That's on point. That's good.
Thank you. And it's crazy coming from Century is they've got like 25,000 followers, but it's not even that. It's like one of the biggest martial arts companies that's been around forever. They made those Chuck Norris kick pants, and to promote me is like a big deal. You're like, I'm not a movie star. I'm nobody famous. Yeah, it's cool because, you know, that they still recognize the little guy. And I told them, I was like, it really means a lot to me. They're like, well, our page and our channel is about promoting those who give back to the community. And you're giving back to the community by putting out all these videos, you know, because I do tutorials, I do instructional type videos, not just montages. You know, I'll talk about, okay, this is the cool drill you guys can try this, you know, step back here, stand here, so on and so forth. So it's a big honor for me, you know, to have that recognition, because especially when you come from, I don't want to say it, when you do spend time in an organization where you're made to feel like this small,
yeah,
and then you realize you're like, there's a lot more stuff out there to learn. And then when you learn it, you're like, damn, this is badass. And then you're getting notoriety for doing it and performing it, being noticed. It's more about having the platform. I want to get noticed, so I have a platform. If I have a platform, I can reach more people. I can help somebody. And that's really what it's about, is getting someone to reevaluate what they feel about karate. Yeah. Karate has a bad name, man. There's a lot of people like, oh, that's bullshit. Oh, it's bullshit.
It's because of movies like The Karate Kid. It made it popular. Movies like The Karate Kid made me want to, you know, I was excited when I saw it.
Because I was too. I remember when I saw it.
Because I wasn't training yet when I saw that movie. So I was excited when that movie came out. I was like, oh, this guy who gets bullied. Oh, this guy, you know, he found a master. You know, that story. You find a master, teaches you a way, blah, blah, blah. But that motherfucker did not learn martial arts.
And he sucked.
You know, he was not, like, they just gave him that black belt.
And he wasn't that good.
He was not going to beat those Cobra Kais in a real situation.
No, not at all.
But because it was a movie, you know, and he was the hero, he was the protagonist, it made you feel like the things that he was learning from Miyagi was going to become applicable, and he was going to overcome these obstacles. But it wasn't until I started training that I was
you realized that he sucked.
That Cobra Kai was the shit. Like, Cobra Kai was the people who were martial artists.
You could tell they were talented.
They were talented. Even now, when the Cobra Kai show came out,
I posted about that. I said in 40 years, this guy couldn't take a fucking lesson to get better. Jesus.
Yeah, like, you could still see, you know, Danielson not really, his techniques are so off. Like, they don't have like many years of training behind them. Like, they don't carry the weight of when, like, somebody does a movement. It's not there. It looks like he just learned it. You know, he's just doing it. You know, like,
but Johnny, on the hand, actually looks like he's been training this whole time.
Which one?
Johnny, the blonde guy.
Oh, that guy knows martial arts from when he was a kid. I'm thinking
Yeah.
that's why they cast him, because his techniques were always sharp. You know,
He looks like an actual martial artist. Kreese too.
because and like, so I'm glad that this show now came out and puts a light on Cobra Kai, because Cobra Kai were the actual martial artists.
Well, even they did some shady shit because at the tournament, everybody became a black belt. I'm like, yo, it hasn't even been a year. What the fuck? You didn't notice that?
Yeah, that was the whole thing with the Cobra Kai. Nobody had no progression of belts, so you couldn't tell how long, what was going on. Everybody was a white belt.
Because you trained for a year for this tournament.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's been a year and you're a Shodan? How the fuck?
Yeah. So that throws me off. So even that, when I was watching the show, and then everybody was still white belts, and then at one point he was like, everybody's wearing white belt. And I'm like, wait, they've been wearing white belts. Like, it's not. It's like there was a part in the show where he like punished them, and they all had to wear white belts.
It's almost like he promoted them the day of, and then took it back.
And I'm like, wait, I never saw anybody with a different color, So it's like they've all still been white belts. I think you guys didn't have the budget, or whatever.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but no, when I watched that movie as a kid, I was hyped, and I think it led to later on so many people getting hyped behind that movie, that later on when different things started coming out, especially UFC and then the Gracies and then Muay Thai, all these like movements that started happening, karate got left behind. And people were like, oh, karate, it became like this thing because it was one of the first things to become really popular in the US, that it felt like now people were like, oh, because it doesn't work, because now we have Muay Thai, because Muay Thai gets to the point, this is what we're doing. We're attacking and we're just destroying. And they're like, oh, karate takes too long. It's weak. There's kata. It's like dancing. People, their mentality, they didn't see it anymore.
Exactly.
They just, so they downgraded karate in a sense where a lot of people just, they don't understand it. They just think they remember their sports. They remember the sports, the point fighting sports. It became point fighting, and a lot of people think that's karate. They don't do the research and look for the Kyokushinkai tournaments where people are like knocking people out, and the tougher ones. Like they don't see that.
You ever seen the Daido Juku?
Yeah.
With the mask and they doing the throws and all that shit. That's badass.
That's badass. Like if I would have continued training, I probably would have tried to do one of those. They
didn't have any of that out here. The closest thing, actually, ancient karate does it. They do. They throw judo in their stuff, and they're out in like Colorado, some shit.
Yeah.
So, but I think honestly, like what actually brought karate a little bit of clout was when Lyoto Machida was fucking dudes up.
Well, him and George St. Pierre.
George St. Pierre. I was going to say him first, but a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that he's a karateka.
Because he was a karateka first.
He's a Kyokushin Sandan.
He's a Kyokushin, yeah. And he was that first. Mm-hmm. And then he incorporated, because you have to. For the ground game, for different, stuff that you need to do, he adjusted so that he can be multifaceted in the arena.
Exactly.
But his base was karate. And some people just don't, like they don't respect that, because they
actually even Stephen Bonner's base is Taekwondo, believe it or not.
Yeah, and even Joe Rogan, like he started karate, then did Taekwondo, and then Taekwondo he got pretty up, and then he realized he needed to adjust. He needed to do more things, so he also
was doing kickboxing. And then I think he said a kickboxer whipped his ass, so he realized Taekwondo wasn't it because he had no hands.
Well, because he didn't have hands, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there he got into Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah. Because you have to keep growing.
That's the thing, is you have to evolve. Does that mean you have to leave your main art? No. It just depends on your teacher. Like, not to reiterate the whole Okinawa thing, because I've been doing that a lot lately to people. And they're like, yeah, but when you hear it, you're like, it's so much better, their system. Over there, what they'll do is, let's say I have a student, right? And I see how my student moves. And I'm like, you know what? Let me make a phone call. You call one of your friends who teaches another style on the island. He say, I'm going to send somebody to you. and you're like, the way you move, I think this art XYZ will complement you too.
Exactly.
And actually, that's what happened with my instructor. He has rank in a style called Ruheru, which is like a Goju-Ryu, like almost like a brother style. And he has also studied Kojo-Ryu, which is also, it was a predecessor to Goju. It's the oldest formulated style in Okinawa. And he does all three. And it's because Toyama was like, the way you move, I think these systems will benefit you. And I think that's the way instructors should do. Like, you know, this would help you if, hey, I have a friend.
Yeah.
You know, I even do that to my students. Like, I have a friend that does this. I have a friend that does that. You know, I have guys that are in my organization that are like Sambo coaches.
No, because at the end of the day, people are always like, oh, this martial art is better than this one. This one is better than this one. No, it's not even that. It's the practitioner might not fit or might not completely comprehend the martial arts. So he might be a black belt in it, but it might not be up to the level that he needs to be because his body might not be completely there. So
exactly, because
you need to adjust. You need to adjust to whatever your body type is as well too. You know, if you're pretty stocky and you're pretty big, you're probably better at grappling, judo, and moves like that. You know, very few very stocky people will do a lot of kicks and a lot of
you're not going to be a kicker.
You know, but
it's not going to happen.
You can learn those things and have them in your toolbox. But you also need to adjust to your body type. If you're tall and lengthy, maybe Muay Thai is more for you because you can you have these reaches and you can do these things. But it doesn't make one martial art better than another. It depends on the practitioner. And people are always like, oh, my martial art is going to beat your martial arts. You know, because no, it doesn't really come down to that. It comes down to the practitioner and how well he grasps his martial arts.
And even to take it a little step further, the instructor too. And some guys might be teaching XYZ art, but do they really understand XYZ art?
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. I know a guy that well, actually, let me revert to this story better. I know a guy, right? Or I know of a guy. I'm not going to name names, but he's an old Okinawan guy who has a really famous organization. His main style was judo. He really did Goju-Ryu for like a year, to be honest. He's like a 7th dan in judo. He opened up a Goju-Ryu organization. Does that make sense? You know, like, is he really that qualified to be teaching an art? He's only been studying for a year.
Yeah.
He's a judo badass. He was no joke. He was legitimate. But he wasn't really a Goju guy, but he has a whole system and he teaches it. So it's like, it's weird. So you have situations like that where an instructor is not really qualified and for whatever reason they want to teach. And I gave that example better because people were like, oh, what happens in the States? No, what happens over there too.
Yeah.
There's charlatans everywhere. There are fakes everywhere in Okinawa, in Japan, in China. Fakes are just.
Man, I remember it was either the late 80s, early 90s. You could buy your black belt course.
Yep. In the back
without
of
the
magazine.
instructor, you just get like, I don't know, 10 to 20 VHS, and the black belt would come in the box as well. Like if you just follow these tapes.
There was that Native American guy. What the fuck was his name? Fred Villari or something like that?
I don't remember.
I believe his name was Fred Villari. And he was like a native guy and he had fucking Don stripes on his sleeves. It was the weirdest shit on earth. And
that was a cash grab.
He had one of those programs.
That was a cash grab. And it worked because people want shortcuts. They're like, oh, I could do this at home. Oh, I don't need to get punched in the face. Oh, you know, like I'm gonna learn. Like I had downloaded a couple of videos of ninjutsu, and it was like ninja techniques, you know, mostly like tuck and roll and little movements and stuff like that. But I'm like, unless I train with somebody, how do I know I'm doing this right? Because like because like you can't see yourself outside of yourself. You might not be balancing your weight the right way, you know, especially for judo. Correct. It's all about counterweight and weight and how you support yourself and where you put your hip. And if you try to learn that by yourself, you might get to a certain level. But if somebody shows you what you're doing wrong while you're doing it, you learn more.
Yep. Because even those videos, they aren't all instructive. They give you what they want to give you, right? And because reality is I could spend an hour just trying to break down Uchiuke if I really wanted to. The applications of it, the purpose of it, the mechanics of it. You can spend an hour doing that. So you think someone's really going to spend an hour explaining Ogoshi, the hip throw? No.
No.
You know, they're just not going to do that. They're going to try put as many flim-flammy techniques on the tape and give them to you. And that's the problem with my next point is going to be Sensei YouTube or Hanshi YouTube. People are using YouTube to learn katas. How? You're not learning any oyo. You're not learning the proper weight distribution. You're not learning the proper intent of anything. You can't really get a good visual. You know, we have a kata called Super Empe, and there's a movement in it that's done incorrectly so many times, where literally you're going straight, but the way the kata looks on the video, it looks like you're going at an angle. So everyone does this. Angle. Yep. Actually, even funny enough, Seiyuchin, they do that too. When Seiyuchin, you're really supposed to be here and straight. People are doing this off to the side. That's not the kata at all. So I don't know where people got that, because I actually see famous Japanese dudes in the States doing that. And but I'm like, why? Because that's not really the movement. Then if you ask them to give you an application, they can't. You know, because people try to say video instruction is invalid. Videotape instruction is invalid. But a conversation like this, we can talk, we can explain, we can actually, you can sit there and watch the technique and see it. Like, yeah, that's the right no, yes, no, you know, how you feel.
On that note, I could say once you have some background on martial arts, some years of training, you can watch a video and get things from it. You're not going to be totally lost. But if you're a beginner, that's the worst way to learn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I think to try to pick up a kata is almost impossible. Now, if I already learned a kata, let's say you taught me a kata and I forgot the shit. I could look it up on YouTube, look for a specific school, like whatever, Jundokan.
Something close to your
Mabelcon, Seipai, whatever. I'll look it up and boom, okay, that's what it looks like. And it's supposed to be a refresher, not supposed to teach me.
Yeah. No, I have done that a lot, especially when I was learning all those katas. And then if I'd be at home and I didn't remember a move, I'd go to YouTube and try to find it. And then it would be a completely similar kata, but a different school.
Yeah.
And it would come back to me, the one that I learned.
Yeah.
And I could take from that and be like, oh, okay. And I could do it, you know, as a refresher. But try to learn a kata, if you've never done martial arts and you're just watching it on a video, there's so much, because you need a 360 look of the kata.
Exactly. I seen a video recently of a guy who claims to be a Goju master doing a Shotokan kata, and it literally looked like a smash bag of assholes. I was like, what in the fuck is that? And you could tell he got it from online. It was the worst performance I've ever seen in my life. Now, here's the funny thing is the kata he did comes from a Goju kata. Why not just do the Goju version?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're a Goju master. So things like that people do, you see a lot of stuff on the internet that just... Yeah. And it's like, you know, what's the expression being woke? Once the veil comes out of your eyes and you really start to like know things, or like, you know, you have a little bit more experience with what things should look like, you see all the stupidity online and you're like, holy shit. And you see people commenting, amazing performance. Yeah, but his imbusin was wrong. His chambering was wrong. His power distribution was wrong.
A lot of it also
was fucked up about that kata.
A lot of it comes down from where they learned it from.
Yes.
Because, you know, like, let's say if you go to a school and they tell you like this is the style, but they don't really tell you where they got their style, and it's an amalgamation of like different styles. Maybe there's one base one, and then they teach you one kata that's actually not even from that system.
Yeah.
You go out in the world and you're like, yo, this is this system style, this kata. And they're like, nah, that kata is from this other style, but you're doing it different. And like, you know, if we're like, instead of up here, you're like a little lower or whatever, you know, that changes kind of a little bit, but it's still the same kata, you know, and you don't know where it originated because you didn't ask questions. You didn't ask for applications, or you didn't ask like, how has this come about? You just learn the material and you're like the lemming, you're just going forward with it and trying to say like,
there's stories where the school doesn't allow questions.
Oh yeah.
I remember asking questions, and I was told to just do the technique. Stop asking so many questions. The fuck? How am I gonna do the technique properly if I don't know the intent?
Hey man, this is why I'm not allowed in churches.
So there's a lot of that where you're like, what, really?
Yeah.
I heard a story from a guy, won't name names. He told me that he left a group organization recently because he was in an online class and asked for the application to a movement and was yelled at for asking. You never asked me that. What is wrong with you? You're going to ask me that. Just do the technique and shut up. And then got a personal phone call being yelled at for asking in class and embarrassing him. So, you know, in a nutshell, the guy told me, he's like, that's actually the real reason why I left, was that I put up with all the bullshit, but to embarrass me in front of a whole class because I asked a simple question, like, why, you know, what's the application to this, was that question. And I got yelled at. 9 out of 10 times is because the guy doesn't know what the fuck it is, and that's why he's yelling at you.
And they're also on power trips. Most of the time, they're like on a power trip.
Yeah.
They just.
But I think it really is a deflection.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I've had people ask me stuff, like even I've had beginners ask me questions on katas that I'm like, in my head, I'm like, why are you even watching that kata? Because it's not like, you know, like what? Like they'll ask a question about a Godan kata and they're like 2 months, 3 months in. But they'll ask me and I'll give them the answer. I'm like, this is what it is. And if I don't have the answer, I'll say this is my interpretation, but I can get the original intent for you, or I can get an answer for you. I don't make it up. I'm not going to say, oh, yeah, this is what it is, or this is what I know it is. If I don't know, I tell them the truth. And a lot of sensei don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to look like they don't know.
Yeah. Because they want you to think they're the source of all.
Exactly.
Once you crack that, you know, once you crack that veil that they don't know everything, they feel like, oh, I'm going to lose the student. But in reality, if you admit that you don't know everything, but you know how to use it and you know what you can use it for, you still keep your students.
Exactly.
But if you're like, don't talk to me, don't ask me these questions. You only talk when I ask you to talk. And you're like, wait a minute, like
that's rude.
We're not in the, you know, in the rural China where you had to beg somebody to train you and they'll keep you outside until like they wanted to let you in and then you're sweeping their floors and all of this. No, I'm paying you to teach me. If I ask you a question, you don't need to get mad at me. Maybe you could say like, don't ask me now, I'll tell you after class. That's acceptable. But to berate you in front of class, that's the reason
that's
to walk
crazy.
out.
Like for me, I'd rather give the answer to the entire class. So that way I don't have to say it again later. Like actually, good question. Because I've had people ask me things. I'm like, you know what? Good question. Let's cover this, everybody. And then we'll take actually like 5-10 minutes just on that subject.
Yeah, because if one person is thinking it, maybe others are thinking it, you know. And I prefer people to be questioning the movement instead of just doing it. Because are they really learning it if they're just going through the motions? Exactly. If they're thinking, that means they're learning. If you have questions on a move, that means you're learning. You're in the process of learning it.
Yeah, because you're processing it, you're trying to retain it.
You're trying to understand it. And if you're just doing the movement, you're just learning a choreography. But if you're questioning the movement, then you're learning what's this for.
Exactly.
I prefer that 100% of the time.
Because even when I make a correction, I'll be like, oh, you know, your hands turn like this. And in the correction, I'll give the intent. Your hand is turned like this because when the guy comes, you're going to do this and hit him here. Or you're going to do this and lock the arm as you're doing that. That's why when you do this in this kata, your hand is like that. Oh, shit, that makes sense. You know, instead of just saying, it's like this because that's the way the book says. Yeah. That's the way I saw it on YouTube.
So I just want to touch upon a little bit on your style.
Yes.
How did you, came to the concept of your style? Like
how that came about developing and stuff?
Yeah, because I've always been curious about that because I know you've studied from different places, and then how did you get to the point where you're like, all right, this is going to be my path. This is going to be how I guide people.
I was actually put in the position, I don't want to say by mistake, but by mistake. What happened was this. I was teaching at a school called Kaizen Martial Arts in New Jersey. And Sorry, there's like a mosquito. I'm like trying to kill it. I was teaching at a school called Kaiser Martial Arts in New Jersey in Piscataway. And I was living in Jersey at the time, and I moved back to the Bronx. So I was traveling literally like 20 hours a week just to get there and come back. That's how long it took. I could have had a whole part-time job type deal. So at the time, I remember I had met my ex-wife in the interim because I got, like I broke up with my son's mom. I had some time to myself, whatever. I ended up dating my ex-wife. And, we were just talking about things. And I said to myself, I'm like, man, this job is really making me tired. Like, I would never want to go anywhere or do anything because I would get home like I'm fucking exhausted just from the traveling. I love the place. I love the opportunity. I actually learned a lot there, a lot. That was actually the first teacher who got me to think about karate in a combative sense. But he's like, Gedan Barai is not really Gedan Barai. It's not really a block. I'm like, what? And then he would like show me locks and throws and all kinds of stuff from that finger locks, all kinds of stuff from that one motion. Like literally, he showed me like 30 applications from one movement. I'm like, oh shit. So I learned a lot from there. But when I left, I was basically a Ronin. I didn't have a flag to go under. I didn't have money to pay franchise fees or nothing to use anyone's name because I got the opportunity to teach at an after-school program for a thing called the Spirit, right? One of my friends set me up with that. And basically, I said to myself, well, if I teach these kids, because it was essentially kids at first, karate, I'm not just going to call it karate because that's just not my nature. Because I'm the why kid, right? Why? What's this? What's that? I was that kid. So I know I'm going to get one. And eventually I did.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'm not going to call it Seido because I'm not affiliated with Seido. And I'm not going to call it Kaiser Martial Arts because I don't have money for
the affiliate
franchise fee monies, right? Because again, it was like, a free program for kids, but they were paying me. But they weren't paying me $1 million either. I was only working like 3 hours a night, 5 days a week. So what I did was I said to myself, well, I'm going to develop something. I'm going to kind of come with the idea of old. Usually, the first original styles were in Okinawa were Nahate, Shirite, Tomarite, right? So they were named after regions, after places. So I was thinking to myself, what can I name it after? I'm not going to name it after the Bronx Rue. That's not happening.
Come on, man. That would have been dope.
So what I said to myself was this, because I'm a big nerd, as you know, and I'm into Superman. I have Superman on my leg. And the big thing about Superman is the House of El, right? He comes from the House of El. So I was thinking and thinking and thinking. I said, how can I honor where I'm from? So it came upon me. I noticed something. So my mother's birthday is July 28th. My father's birthday is August 1st. So right away, what does that say to you that they have in common?
Summer?
They're astrological signs.
Okay. Leo.
They're both Leos.
Okay.
Both my parents.
Mine doesn't always go to astrological.
If you can see the back here, that is the flag of Ponce. I don't know how a DR is like this, but in Puerto Rico, like in New York, every city, state, every pueblo has its own flag. Lajas has a flag. Maya Grace have a flag. Whatever. San Germán has a flag. That is Ponce's flag. And they're super proud of that flag because their mascot is a lion.
A lion.
So I said to myself, hold on, wait a minute. There's a theme. My parents are both Leos, and they were both born in Ponce. In Ponce, they call it the House of Lions, right? Or the City of Lions. Okay. So I said to myself, well, if Superman's from the House of Els, right? House of El. I'm from the House of Lions because my family are lions, they're Leos, and they're from Ponce, the City of Lions. So that's how the whole lion thing came about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I asked a friend, because he knew kanji, he was Chinese, knew a little Japanese, and I said, how do you say lion in Japanese? And this is what actually came back to bite me in the ass, but it actually came out to be cool, and I'll explain this to you in a moment. So he was like, well, in Chinese, Shishi is lion, Shishi. So I was like, okay, Shishi Khan, House of Lions, right? That's going to be the name of my school. The House of Lions, Lion House, Shishi Khan. So cool. Ran with that. So what happened was over time, just on the name aspect, Sensei Mertz, who I've known for quite some time, he told me a few times, you might want to check that name. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, Khan can't be the name of a style. I was like, what? He's like, it can't. I said, well, what about Shotokan? He goes, that wasn't really intended to be the name of the style. The Shotokan was the name of the building. Funakoshi never had a name for his art because he believed that it should be one karate and one karate only, that all karate should be one. So, you know, that's never going to happen. Egos, whatever. Everybody wants to be a chief. And the reality is Shuri Te looks nothing like Nahate. Nahate looks nothing like Tamari Te. They're very different arts for reasons, right? So they also have different backgrounds. Nahate is mostly 99% Chinese. A lot of those guys were Chinese. The style was influenced by Chinese. So Shuri and Tamari were more developed in-house in Okinawa from indigenous arts. So they look different. So anyways, he was telling me, he goes, yes, Khan can be the name of a style. I was like, damn. So recently, I revisited that, and I explained to him, I asked him, I said, I know you said that a while ago, but explain to me why again. So he explained to me why. He goes, Khan can be the name of an organization like Kyokushin Kai Khan, but the art is called Kyokushin. It's not Kyokushin Khan. I was like, makes sense. Goju-Ryu, Shito-Ryu, Shoin-Ryu, Uechi-Ryu. And he's like, kind of get the idea? And I'm like, ah. So I was going to call it something else, but we decided to brand it Shishi-Ryu.
Shishi-Ryu.
Now, what I actually found out from Sensei Mertz was, in Japanese, lion isn't shishi. Lion is shi. That's it. He said when you say shishi, you're actually referring to the Fu lions in front of the guardian temples. The two, the male and the female. So what ended up happening with that, which actually made it more convenient, let me actually grab something real quick. 1 second. So what made it interesting was my patch, I had designed it so that there were two lions on the patch, right? Like kind of looking over the system, which is the kanji in the middle, and the tomoe, as they call it, the 3 circles, which represent like, you know, mind, body, spirit, the 3 regions of Okinawa, Naha, Shuri, Tamari, that kind of thing. So if you look at the patch, there's 2 lions guarding the system. Now, if you look at the Fu lions, there's 2 lions. These lions were always meant to be my parents, right? Mother and father, male and female, yin and yang, the balance of the art.
So the name worked.
Yes. So it's so funny that I came up with that name, not knowing that the true intent was actually the Fu Lion guardian art, the guardian protectors of the art. So it was just ironic that the patch and the symbolization of it being a self-defense art, not a sport art, kind of came full circle with the real explanation of what that meant.
Wow.
Because no one really took the time to explain it to me. And since he's a translator by trade, he's like, yeah, basically what it means is like the lion or the Fu Lion protector school was what Shishi Ryu would really be. So, yeah, and that's exactly the idea. And if you look at the colors match the flag. That's why I picked those colors, would it be the color of the flags. But I just thought it was interesting that, I don't have that patch on here. I just have the kanji. This is a Shiredo-gi. So in Okinawa, they embroider it. But, so it was just ironic. So I was thrown into the position. I know it's a long explanation, but it is a long story. I was thrown into the position, so I had to come up with a name. Now, the style has evolved a lot over the few years because the first class I taught was in October of 2010. I had to think about that for a second. 2010, October was the first class I taught in the school, PS 86. So from that time, we've evolved enormously. Techniques, concepts, ideas, because with anything, the art grows. I didn't want it to be an art that looked like something else. I didn't want it to be like, oh, that's recognizable as this. You're stealing this. This comes from here. I wanted it to be like, this is unique. It's different. Yeah. What is that? You know? And that to me was what an art should be. Now, I still have that same philosophy, but I still want to uphold certain principles where the locking, they say, oh, they see locking right away, jiu-jitsu. Okinawans have locking system of their own. And it's in the kata. If you see katas where you do movements like this, that's a nikyo. Someone grabs you, you grab them back. No one thinks about these things. When you see this motion here in Geksai, that's actually an armbar.
You're putting someone in an armbar and you're hammering their face. So essentially their arm is tucked under here and you're grabbing one, pow, to their face. So there's a lot of locking and throwing and techniques like that in the katas as we just don't recognize them. So my main mission is to, okay, sure, there's a jiu-jitsu influence because I've done jiu-jitsu for a long time, but there really is an Okinawan karate flavor that there is all this stuff already present in the art, right? Not saying it's the end-all be-all, but they had an idea where there was grappling involved, there was striking involved, there were vital point striking, there were throws, there were chokes. All these things were involved in the art, and people want to act like it doesn't exist because what they're exposed to is mainland Japanese sport karate. They're not, a lot of people aren't exposed to what Goju-Ryu looked like in Okinawa, what Uechi-Ryu looked like, what any of those styles really look like, Kojo-Ryu or Ruhe-Ryu. They don't know. So yeah, the development of the style was just a kind of an accumulation of what I've learned over time and to try to make it something that's as realistic and effective as possible, and also for small spaces. As you know, the Bronx, right? Everything is tight in New York. Escalators, elevators, hallways, even the train cars. Do I really, this is not to knock anyone who does this stuff, but people have heard me say this before. Do I really have time and room to be doing spinning back kicks on the fucking train?
Nobody
No.
does. You might
Do I have
cold.
room and time to do that on the escalator? No. But I can parry, lock you, and throw you. I can strike you in the throat. I can hit you in the navel. And in certain parts of the body, you can just nudge someone and they're going to fold. The navel is one of them. I can hit you there, you're going to bend. That doesn't mean you're going to go, ah! Some people will have a different reaction. But physically, you will bend. It's just physics. So if I can get your fulcrum and bend you, then I can manipulate you. So it's kind of like really learning not just punching and kicking. It's the why and the how combined. Because the biggest difference that's put out there, and actually there's videos on this, is Japanese karate focused on the how I do a technique. Not why, but how. Okinawan karate focuses on why I do a technique. They say, I don't really care what it looks like, but does it work?
Yeah.
They have a theory. Sometimes the ugliest karate is the most effective. But my feeling is it should still look nice, but it should still be effective.
Yeah.
So I want to give my students that balance where it's the sharpness and techniques that I got from.
But the sharpness comes from practice.
Exactly.
Renma,
And proper body mechanics. I know that my elbow has to stay in. My shoulders are down. I'm not like this.
Well, no, that's how, like, we can watch a movie and we could tell if the actor has had any training. Because you can tell when somebody just learned it for a couple months, just learned the choreography.
Like the Karate Kid people, yeah.
Or if it's somebody who's been, like, training in this and their body has, like, molded to do these moves.
You can see it, like, for example, if we take Cobra Kai, you've seen the Cobra Kai series, right?
Yeah.
You can tell that Robbie just learned it on the set, just by looking at him. But you could tell that Sam actually has a background in martial arts.
I'm horrible with names. Which one of those?
Sam is Daniel LaRusso's daughter.
She knows martial arts.
What she does, and I'm almost promised I could tell you, is there's a school called Sharky's Martial Arts, and they're big on all those XMA guys. Oh God,
because she has moves like that. Like she's moves,
an XMA. Yeah, you could tell it's XMA.
You could tell she's been training. Like her kicks, her movements has control and weight behind it.
Yes. The other guy looked like he just learned it on the set.
Yeah, she does not. No.
Yep.
The boy, you can always tell when somebody knows martial arts from their spinning back kick.
Yep.
As soon as he did those spinning back kicks where his leg was kind of like still like at an angle. Like,
yeah.
He turns and it's still like kind of like off. I was like,
like hooked off. Yeah.
Yeah, like this guy is like, he just learned it. Because you need to turn and find the target and have it extended because you need to know how you're hitting. Are you hitting with the heel? Are you hitting with the ball?
Exactly.
Are you hitting with the knife? Like, what are you doing? They're just doing the move and they're trying not to really hurt the other person. So they're kind of holding it back. And you could tell,
Yeah. With her, you can tell she has training. But
Yeah.
that's one of the things, not to get into that venture, but one of the things that annoyed me about that show as a martial artist is, okay, everyone looks like they're doing something completely fucking different. The Cobra Kai kids do look like Johnny. They resemble him. But Robbie actually reminds me of Daniel because he still kind of sucks, but he's doing more
Robbie's
streamlined
the
kind
kid
of
with the
techniques.
ponytail.
Yeah, Robbie,
Yeah.
the blonde dude.
He
He's
actually
doing,
he actually looks like he has some training, a little bit.
but he
But it
definitely
could
looks like he's trained. Like when you see him
be
moving, he
gymnastics.
looks like he's doing more basics.
It could be
When,
gymnastics, like
but
being
when
able
you
to
see her
carry.
move, her movements don't look like either of them. You could tell it's XMA.
Yeah.
The whole spin punch, the way she punches
Yeah,
is
and
not to the center.
she did that one spin kick, jump, spin
Mhm.
kick, flip thing that she did. I was like,
The
oh,
butterfly kick, yeah.
okay, but yeah, that Robbie kid, he looks like he's an athlete. They got an
Yeah.
athlete, and he's actually knows his body, so they trained him for the movie. I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, I get that feeling that he doesn't have a huge history on martial arts, but I also don't get that that Daniel-san feeling from him, who he doesn't know anything.
Well, Daniel really fucking sucked. And I really think this is the thing that bothers me about that whole movie. People are like, yeah, but he only had a little bit of time. I said, and Jaden Smith. When Jaden Smith's movie, he became a beast.
Oh, he went to China and trained.
No, yeah, I know. You think they couldn't have actually spent a couple of dollars and had this fucking poor kid train or something?
But the thing is, like, back then, they were like, it's a movie. Just act it,
Because
They
they
didn't put a
say
lot
that-
of weight behind it.
You know that dude who was the referee with the mustache?
He's the one that choreographed
trained them.
everything. Yeah.
Mhm.
But the thing
He
is,
should have spent a little bit more fucking time with Daniel.
well, it doesn't come down really to him at the end of the day. It came down to the producers. And back
Mhm.
then, they kept the budget short. Just short budget, make it look as big as possible. So I could imagine he didn't have enough time to train them,
Yeah.
So
But then when you take
hey everyone, sorry to interrupt. Just a quick disclaimer here. Me and Kevin are really into a conversation, especially the part about the Cobra Kai Netflix series. And just wanted to do a correction on the actress Mary Mouser, who plays Daniel's daughter. We were under the misconception that she was actually probably one of the people who came in with some martial arts experience. And the reality is, no, we were fooled. My face is red, our bad, and I give mad props to the production for their amazing choreography and switch of the stunt double. And her stunt double, who does all the crisp martial arts stunts that we were glorifying and crediting to Mary Mouser. Her name is, I believe, is pronounced Leafy Kim. I will put a picture here, and I would also post. I'm going to share the video where Mary Mouser is talking about her martial arts experience.
That was not me. I learned part of the kick. I learned as much as I possibly could, but the girl who did that kick, she's been in training to do that for I think 8 years of her life to be able to do that kind of thing. I cannot do that kind of thing. I can do some pretty cool stuff now, though. I have learned a lot, and I feel like I've definitely raised my skill level. But I'm not going to be doing any aerials anytime soon.
And just wanted to give you a correction. I don't want to put out false information knowingly. So there we are. Now let's get back to the show. Enjoy.
somebody like fucking
Daniel-
Keanu Reeves.
Danielson, he had the nice little boy next door look. That's what they wanted. He kind of looked kind of wimpy.
Well, he looked like he was gonna come and make you some pasta vazul. Originally he said that his name was supposed to be something different, like Daniel Wallace or Daniel Walker, like a real gringo name.
Yeah.
And he said they added some vowels because he was so Italian looking. I thought he was Puerto Rican.
You thought he was Puerto Rican?
Yeah, because to me he had the skin tone.
Yeah.
He looked like a Boricua. I have a cousin that looks like him, so I thought he was Spanish.
Yeah. No, that's why he was perfect, because he was ambiguous in race in the movie.
Yeah.
For everybody else, he was like, este un Latino. You could tell. Or, he
who's
blended
another one
into
like
all
that?
the communities.
You ever seen the Lois and Clark show from the 90s?
Lois and Clark, yeah.
I could have fucking sworn when I was a little kid that Dean Cain was Boricua too. I said, that nigga's Hispanic. And I found out he's like white and Asian. I was like, oh. Which nobody ever mentioned that he's actually the first ever Asian Superman.
Look at that.
He's used half part Japanese.
But a lot of actors hide shit like that.
Yeah. I thought he was dead Hispanic though. Like when I saw him, I was like, oh, he looks like one of my cousins.
You know, it's because like America is still pretty racist, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, you can see there's something up with him though. Like you look at him, he doesn't look like a blanquito.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of actors who have like, who are mixed, but they'll just go with, they won't even say. They'll just go
like
with
Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Vin Diesel is clearly, actually, when I found out, I was like, oh, and I saw him with hair. I'm like, yeah, he's half black.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of actors that hide shit like that. Why, I don't know, but they do. And they want to be whitewashed or whatever.
Well, I don't think Vin Diesel ever hit it, though. Like,
no, he just never spoke about it. He was another one. I thought he was Dominican or something. I had no idea. Then they were like, he's half black. I was like, oh.
oh, Vin Diesel?
Yeah.
Yeah. But he also like connects a lot with the Dominican people.
He does.
He's done a lot of stuff in the Dominican Republic. He helped like some film schools and develop over there and some stuff like that.
Maybe because of Michelle Rodriguez. He was in love, low key.
I met her once. She's pretty cool.
Oh,
she has a mouth of a sailor, man.
She's worse than me. I've been trying to tone this shit down the entire time. I'm like, no F-bombs. I probably said fuck maybe once.
Tone her down, man. I was working at this acting school, and she came in for like talk to the kids and stuff, with the audience. Yo, I was having an amazing time. Huh? Well, they're not kids. They're like from like late teens to the early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or maybe mid 20s and stuff like that. It's an acting school in the city. I'm not gonna name names. But she came.
I remember.
She came for like a seminar, like to talk to them, to tell her about her experience becoming an actress and her success and stuff like that. But dude, she was just like I loved it. She was just her, and like she would just say things, and it was like.
Isn't she from the Heights?
I don't know for sure where her background is, but you could tell like.
I know because she's half Puerto Rican, half Dominican, but I think she's from New York.
But she was a blast. She was a blast. Like
I
enjoy meeting her and seeing how real she was.
Yeah. That's the best when you see people for people. Not someone who thinks they're like an ultimate god that can have a conversation with a person.
No, because you meet especially you meet some celebrities sometimes, and they still keep a facade.
Yeah.
It's publicity.
It's sad, but sometimes that never goes away for some people. They really live in that world, in that fantasy world, where they think they're the end all and be all and whatever the fuck. So. Yeah,
but she came in and she was real. Like, this is me. So when you see her in a movie, you're like, she's acting. Like, that's not her, she's transformed. So it's like, it gives you more like, wow, like that's talent, when you meet somebody who's real. Because sometimes you'll meet an actor and you're like, oh, he's always like this. And it's like, so when he's in the movies, it's like, is it really acting? Like, is it changing himself to fit this role? Or is he just.
She's completely different than she is on camera.
Yeah.
Like completely different, even in the Fast and Furious series.
She's closer to herself in the Fast and Furious series. Where were we? Oh yeah, I don't remember.
This whole thing about Daniel LaRusso and how his kid doesn't look like they're doing a real career. Like she looked like she never trained with him. She trained with an actual martial artist.
Oh yeah, no yeah, just as a martial artist.
He's trying to critique her. He's like, you don't like back kick is weak. In my head, I'm like, she does a better fucking back kick than you do, bro.
Yeah. No, yeah, but I'm really glad that the show's coming back and it's so popular because it's like.
I'm excited about the third season.
I'm excited too, because they're gonna bring in the ex-girlfriend too. So
that's what they're saying, and it's supposed to bring in Terry Silver too.
Yeah, and the Elizabeth Shue, the ex-girlfriend, she was on. She just finished. She was on the first season of The Boys.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. She was like
She was in
the
that show.
or something like that.
She was like the manager of the
Yes.
of the Sevens.
I need to start watching it again. I tried to get back into it. For some reason, my Fire Stick was acting stupid, so I got to unplug it and plug it back in because sometimes.
Don't worry. Once you like get into it, if you have one Saturday, like Saturday and Sunday, you get back.
I've been having time, man. Sometimes I have time. Like, well, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. My schedule is actually slowed down a little bit because I was doing a lot of martial arts.
Your Instagram and probably your YouTube, it's like prolific, man. You're dishing out videos constantly. I'm always seeing on my feed. I'm like, oh, here's another 10 videos. You know?
I kind of slowed down a little bit, and the reason for that was I had 2 phones at one time. So what happened was during class, I would use one for Zoom, and the other one I would hit record and then do whatever. But the problem is I've only got one phone now that works. So in order for me to do that, I literally have to do the videos after the class is done or before the class. Because I don't like using my laptop because for some reason, it is going to sound weird. I attribute it to the camera. I don't want to say it's me. But my students say when I move too fast, the camera freezes.
It's probably the rate of the internet and the rate of the frames. They're not catching up to each other. And so you're getting gyrations of the movement. Even here, there's a delay. When I do this, it's not when I actually do it, you know. So sometimes the camera has delays, and sometimes if the internet is not like, you know, perfect, it'll freeze also within it.
Yeah, because it does that. I notice it does it on here, but it doesn't do it on my phone. Plus, on here, I'm not as clear looking. I look like kind of granulated and shitty. On there, I look clearer, so I do it.
Zoom, the thing is also the compression on Zoom for the videos. It's a lower quality. It's a lower quality so that it can easily be transferable and be live.
Oh, I didn't know that.
When you're recording on a higher rate, on a higher, compression for the video. So you're getting a better quality because you're recording it and it's onto a memory card.
Mm-hmm.
When we're doing a live stream, they need to keep the compression at a certain, capacity to be able to, so we don't have a lot of hiccups.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, so I had to do that. But yeah, I was pumping out more videos. Now I'll do some stuff to cover the techniques we did in class. And then maybe if I'm in the mood, I'll do something cool. And then I'm like, okay, well, let me post this. Or I'll be careful what I post. Because again, I've had the mentality like, okay, I noticed this. And not to sound like I'm full of myself, but I will post videos and dudes will literally try to copy the shit that I posted and then act like they came up with the combination or they came up with whatever. And I know we live in a borrowed world, right? Nobody invented the wheel.
Yeah.
But goddamn, give a nigga some props. Be like, yo, I got this from Shihan, whoever. Or I got this from, you don't even got to use my title. You got this from Pereira. Cool. Thanks for the shout out. Yeah. But people will literally just jack it and it'll look like shit. And I've had people inbox me like, yo, isn't this, didn't you just post a video doing this? I'm like, yeah. So one guy could kind of be a smart ass. I inboxed him. And I was like, hey, if you need help cleaning up those techniques, let me know. I'll help you out. No charge. He read it, never wrote me back.
No,
it was basic shit. Like, it was literally a wasezuki. Because I have, like, sometimes I do these drills where I'll do, like, a wasezuki. And then from every wasezuki, I do a different block. Okay. So I'll do a wasezuki joranuke, a wasezuki gerambarai, a wasezuki uchuke, like that. So it was literally a wasezuki joranuke 2 times joranski. And I don't know why it looked like shit, but it did. And then there was another one.
When the guy was doing it?
When the guy was doing it. And there was another one where I played off of it, which was a little bit more complicated. I did a wasezuki joranuke gerambarai uchiuke 2 times chunatsuki. And I did it kind of fast in the video. I wasn't breaking it down. And the guy was trying to replicate what he saw in the video. It looked really bad.
But was he posting it? He was posting it like he was posting it like he was trying to teach the technique to people?
Yeah, he was like, check out Sensei's workouts of the day. Try this technique.
Oh, you shared me. You send me some of those videos. Was it that guy? You sent me some videos of some guy like doing some workouts outside and he was doing some training. I remember now.
And he was jacking my shit, and I was like, "Damn, okay, whatever."
Hey man, that happens all the time on like online. It happened to me on Instagram. It not necessarily happened to me, but like I did a photo shoot, and there some of the pictures I posted on my Instagram.
Yeah.
And there was some pictures that I gave to the client, or not even to the client, but like people who were there, like the makeup artists and you know, the hairstylists, and sometimes they're the same person, but sometimes it's different people. And then there's the people who do the wardrobe, you know, the look. But I'll give the picture to the client, the model, you know. And the next thing I see, it's like the makeup artist will post a picture, my picture, and won't even tag me.
I'll give you credit.
It won't even give me any credit. They're just posting it. Like
That's disheartening. It's fucked
like
up.
it's all them, you know, like, yeah, you did the makeup, but that's my picture. So I'll like go in and be like, hey man, I'm glad you're posting this, but can you at least tag me and like give me credit? And most of the time they'll be like, oh yeah, my bad, you know, and they'll re-edit it and put my name on it somewhere. But it happens all the time. Like people will just jack your shit and just post it like it's theirs.
Yeah, it's fucked up. And you're like, come on, man. Like, I know I didn't invent this combination. Actually, I did. But I know, because I don't remember ever doing that exact combination anywhere. I just thought it made sense because of the way I use Owasezuki for me. Yeah. I use it off of a lapel grab. So someone's pulling you in, pow, to catch them off guard. And then the Joranuke is you're catching the arms. I actually sent you this video. You're catching the arms and you're breaking them as you're coming up. So I'll do Owasezuki Joranuke, and that'll be one of the combinations. Or if I do Owasezuki Joranuke Gedanbarai, I hit him, break his arms, and I take the same hand around and check the arms out of the way, and then I'll punch him in the throat. So that's a combination I'll do, and then I'll show why I do it. Yeah. So that's kind of been my big thing is lately doing a technique. I've done it with the Torifa and the Sai. I'll do a drill, and then the next clip, combined thread to it, will show the application. Because I had people like, that ain't work. I had a guy trying to shit on a nunchaku technique I did. And he turned out to be a nephew of a student of mine. And he's like, that ain't work. He has an accent. He's from another country. So he made a video trying to apply the technique, but I'm like, he doesn't understand the technique, so how the fuck is he going to apply it? So I actually try to demonstrate it. But in demonstrating it, it proves that you can't do the full technique that way because you're going to break the guy's arm. But if you do it in practice, you want to practice going through. But if I catch your arm and I take this part and come here and start to squeeze with an octagonal nunchaku, you're going to feel it on your wrist. It's going to compress and it's going to be super painful. And it's going to snap, especially with the turned over punch. So I practice going through because, as you know, we don't want to go to the opponent. We want to go through them, right?
Yeah.
So I practice going through because you have to practice that breaking motion. Does that mean you're going to break your partner's arm? Hell no.
No. Yeah.
So
martial arts, there's so many different angles. Like I remember thinking about a certain way, especially with like blocks. Sometimes blocks, there's so much force in the snap that a block is an attack as well, like you were saying earlier. And I never really seen it in like taught that way. They always just tell you like up, sideways, whatever. Yeah. You know, they never tell you. They just tell you these are the blocks, right? So you're always thinking these are defensive moves. And then, have you seen this movie, Kuro Obi, Black Belt?
Yes.
That movie, the first 10 minutes, I remember what part, but like the first 5 minutes of the movie where they're like, he looks at the master and the master says, don't strike. And he's like, he beats up like 5 people just with defense moves. Like every move is like a block that we know in our style, you know, like a regular block, so, you know, downward block, upper block, all these blocks. And he destroyed them, you know, because he was hurting them with the snap at the end was actually a hit. Yeah. But it looked like it was just defensive. But the contact with the snap and the hip, he would cause damage to them. And that movie, like, I always recommend it to people. Like, you have to watch this movie just for that first fight sequence. Scene, yeah. That first fight sequence, it's like you learn a different perspective. A defense is an attack, is an offense.
Always,
You know, one of the things that we talk about is that there's a concept, right, called ugoki. Ugoki is like method of movement, right? So let's say we're doing a kata or movement, right? I go from a cat stance to a front stance. So I go from what we call a kamae to a kamae. What's the ugoki in between that? How do I get from here to here, right? Well, we have to really break down. That's when it all comes into play, where this is a strike. This is a strike. This is the parry. You're redirecting and grabbing. So it's kind of deflect, redirect, I should say. So this is actually the block. This is a check. And that's the one thing a lot of people don't think about. This check can be a striking check, you know, a check with a snap that's gonna hurt. But the real block comes from the chamber 90% of the time.
Yeah.
I have a video that I posted where I use the chamber for Geidan Barai to actually get a punch to the arm. And then I hammer the back here, right underneath the tricep. So I punch him in the right on top of the radial nerve, punch him on top, and that was not fun. His expression was like, oh shit. So I punch him on top of that and then hammer the back where the tricep ends, or I should say begins on the bottom here. And it was like, I said, yeah, that's one of the applications for Geidan Barai. It's all destruction. Or we actually use the phrase defanging the snake, right? If the guy doesn't have his fangs, his weapons, he can't hurt you anymore because he's not going to want to fight.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. But, you know, that movie was a good example of it, where all these movements are now the okiwaza, the hidden technique, the hogiwaza. And the ogiwaza is basically like that, you know, that hidden movement. You know, this looks like whatever, but in reality, it's a fucking hammer and you're grabbing somebody's arm and hurting them. You know, we have a movement in a kata koshisoshin where you're coming here and it just looks like you're skiing. But what you're doing, you're just scooping a dude's leg and you're fucking pushing him forward. And then when you turn, you scoop his leg and you put his head like a shote here, but you're actually using this knuckle to hit him in the neck. And then when you step and turn around, you're throwing him across, like you're taking him down by his leg. And it's the coolest thing because you look at the movement and you're like, what the hell are you doing? It looks like you're an Egyptian. Like an Egyptian. Like it's weird movements, but all these movements have a crazy ass application. And they either look odd or look so simple that you're like, that's what that is? So yeah, and the movements are just amazing. That's what I love about martial arts is not everything is as it seems, you know?
No, there's always more to it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of stuff, you're not going to really understand it on first glance.
Yeah.
It might look simple. It might look complicated, but it might actually be a little more simple than you thought. But yeah, like there's so much, you know, even when you're chambering, it's also like an attack going back because you're conditioning your muscles, you know, so everything connects.
Mm-hmm. Or you're pulling something towards you, you're pulling away from something, pulling out of something. So that's what I love about that push-pull motion, you know. You can also be using that same motion if I'm doing like a shote, right? I have an arm, this goes this way, that elbow's that way, what's going to happen to the arm? Snap. So it's teaching you that motion. Mm-hmm.
Give me 1 second. My light turned off. Now it looks.
Oh shit! It's already 8 o'clock.
Oh, it's 2 hours. That's good.
Yeah, it's because I run my mouth so much.
Everything goes so fast.
It does when you have a good time. Now we need to talk about ramen. When are we gonna go get some ramen, bro?
Oh man, dude, I went to get the ramen at that place that we went to, and it's only takeout, and they're charging you a COVID fee.
The fuck?
I was like, I can't come back here while they're doing this, because it came out so much more. Like what I always order comes down to like $22, and then I would tip, right? They added a $5 COVID fee, and then they wanted a tip, and I'm like, I love your ramen, but I'm also on a budget. Like I can't be doing this.
They're bugging. I'll give you the tip.
You know, like I can give you the tip, or maybe if you just said tax or some shit like that, put like an extra COVID fee because people are not sitting. You know, I'm pretty sure.
Or to make their money back, because I get it. That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm just like,
Because when I was in Philly, we went to get cheesesteaks, and what they did was they rounded off the prices, so that way they didn't have to give people as much change. So if something was like $11.50, it would just be $12. If
That makes
it was
sense. Like, I don't
like
mind
that,
if you
$9.50
round
just
up.
be 10.
Like, I don't mind if you round up, but like to just add an extra fee.
$5 is a lot of money. You can get a lot for $5.
Like on people who are giving you patronage, you're gonna charge them more because other people are not coming.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, because like I go there a lot where I used to, but like after I went, I'll wait. Hopefully, like
They lost the customer.
they didn't lose me because the ramen's pretty good, especially in
And they
this
lost
area.
you for the COVID time.
For now, especially because like the situation.
Yeah.
The budget is tight, so I gotta be, I gotta think
Mindful.
before I spend.
Plus, the ramen you make at home looks like the real fucking thing. I don't know how you do that. Because I do it. It looks like some kindergartner made it. So I don't know how the hell you're doing it.
I just have fun with it. You boiled eggs. I always have leftover meat, so I chop it up, and then like, I gotta change the noodles though, because the last time the noodles I didn't like them too much, because I got that bowl noodle, and then I go from there.
What noodle do you usually use? Is it usually the bowl one?
Yeah. Well, I'll bring one. I'll show you.
Okay.
So I got this one.
Oh, okay. I've seen those.
Yeah, but these are good. But I used to buy these other ones from this other place, from this Asian market, and the noodles were much thicker and like had more flavor. They were richer. Yeah, these are just like, Americanized.
Yeah.
But they're cheap, so it's a good base if you just want like a quick, ramen.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my palate is it's a much more
too fancy for that.
I'm too fancy for that, for cheap ramen.
Too bougie. Yeah, because I try to make it. It doesn't look the same. I'm like, what the fuck, man? I don't know what this guy's doing in his kitchen. It looks like he just got it from the ramen shop.
Well,
to me, it looks like someone threw up and put it in a bowl. And I can cook my ass off, so I don't get it. I'm like, what the hell?
Well, I'm just like, I'm very visual. So like, I'll remember how it looked when they bring it out, and then I try to make it fancy, look like that. It's pretty much
a tease. I see it on the internet. I'm like, damn.
But I'm just at home. Can't go out. Can't do anything. So you gotta get inventive.
Yeah, tell me about it. I mean, rice with corn a lot lately.
Now, I was on this like I started doing the carnivore diet.
That's expensive, man.
It wasn't at first, but then the whole pandemic first it was a meat shortage, and then the price hike. Mm-hmm. Now it's expensive.
Yeah, now it is.
So I got off of it because now you have to buy other stuff so that
you got to eat whatever you can to survive right now.
Yeah, because it's like the finances aren't really there, and also it's like the prices are being hiked in certain spots.
Yes. Because I tried it too. Then when the pandemic hit.
But the thing is, like, as soon as everything normalizes somewhat, I'm going back to it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do the same thing.
Because I felt amazing, and just like pain-wise.
Yeah, you also don't feel as bloated either.
Yeah, you don't feel bloated. Your stomach is like flat, and so many benefits.
Yeah, tell me about that. Yeah, I know.
I tried, I've tried the vegetarian and vegan stuff. Not like I didn't jump into it religiously, but my girlfriend at the time was, she wanted it. She was vegetarian, trying to be vegan. I
think it's easier when you have a partner that does it. Well, my ex was into all of that stuff too, and it just made it easier for me to.
But I gained more weight. I gained more weight on that.
Really?
Because it was all carbs.
Vegetarian? Oh yeah, because veggies are carbs. Mm-hmm.
Well, not just the veggies. It wasn't just veggies. It'd be like veggies and rice. It'd be veggies and pasta. It'd be like. It was just like there was a lot of carbs to supplement.
I think women just have a different metabolism.
Because I remember my ex would just do something small, like cut out dairy, but still eat whatever the fuck she wanted, and she'd be like this still.
Well, no, that comes down to like different genetics. Because my brothers, they have the same father, different father than me. They can fart and lose 10 pounds. It's like
Yeah.
they're just naturally slender. Their body has a high metabolism. Mine retains. If you look at the men in my dad's side, they all have that little gut. Just, they walk into the room and their stomach is the first thing people see. And I try. I've tried so many different diets. I used to just eat broccoli and chicken, and you lose weight with that progressively.
But it's hard to stick to it forever.
But it's hard because it's boring. So like once I got onto the carnivore diet, and it's not expensive if you're not eating it like too many times a day, because you
do intermittent fasting too.
Yeah, I do intermittent fasting. I would eat, my first meal is at 2 in the afternoon. I don't eat breakfast. I have a coffee or a tea, something in the morning just for energy. And then I was eating around 2, 3 o'clock, and it was like a piece of steak, and I'll probably put some peppers, like some jalapenos and stuff. It's not like a complete no vegetables, no nothing. I'll keep like some jalapenos and some stuff, and then I would also have eggs. When I get home, I might make an omelet or something. But cutting out like carbs, cutting out all this other stuff, I noticed that like my gut deflated. Like I was like, man, I'm fat. But in reality, I was just bloated most of the time. I was just bloated most of the time. And then I have this shoulder problem from the car accident that I had like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I believe. And like this shoulder is not the same as this one. Like with this one, I could put it like straight like this. This, it's like, you see how like
it goes up. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's never going to be fixed unless I get like some sort of surgery. But every morning I would wake up so much pain because I try to sleep on this side, but I always wake up on this side. And like every morning it would take me like half an hour just to like get rid of that pain and stiffness. On the carnivore diet, nothing. I wake up, it's stiff because the shoulder's fucked up, but no pain.
I think some of the carbs, they inflame your joints too.
Yeah, they cause inflammation, stuff like that. Some vegetables too, and it's pretty much, a diet where you're just eliminating stuff, an elimination diet. So you're eliminating certain things, and something I'm eliminating is what's causing inflammation and pain.
Because the one good thing about that too is that you're eating like a caveman. Because what the fuck they had to eat most of the time was just meat. Yeah,
they like scavenged for some fruit and berries once they could, because if they couldn't hunt something. But when you eat, you just ate meat or whatever you could. And it was, people try to complain like say that we're one thing or the other. We're omnivores. We are opportunistic eaters in reality. Anything that we can survive on, we'll survive on it.
Yes.
If you want to be a vegetarian, you can survive on a vegetarian diet. If you want to be vegan, you can survive on a vegan diet, but you have to supplement, which I really don't support having to supplement. Everything pretty much vegan that have to supplement, you are eating processed food. Tofu, processed. Everything is like processed pretty much. It's not like from the ground to your mouth. Like most of like supplementing, you have to supplement if you're a vegan because you're not getting all your nutrients. They'll tell you you'll get all your nutrients from this, but you have to eat so much of that.
There's no way. You eat like 2 bowls of that shit. Yeah,
there's a lot of athletes that are now like changing. They get to a point and they'll have to drop it, because it's just not right for them. And then the vegans will come and attack them like, oh, you didn't do it right. But it's like, no, it doesn't work for everybody. Everybody's. I
think it's easier too if you do it from a childhood.
It is.
I know people in the style that shall not be named, and they were vegetarians. And when I was like, really? You never had a hamburger or a cheeseburger? Because I would talk to them on the phone. We'll talk to her on the phone. And we were talking about how her school, they used to let her out to eat.
And she was like, yeah, I just bring my own stuff. And I'm like, why? Oh, I'm a vegetarian. I said, hold on, wait a minute. You're a Puerto Rican vegetarian? So what do you eat? Just arroz con candula and ese? No pernil, no chuleta, no nothing? No.
No.
And to me, that blew my mind. But it's like, I never wanted meat because I never tasted meat. So I think that's the only way it truly works. If you're born into that shit, I think it makes
Well,
it
no,
easy.
there's some people who
Convert.
that naturally it's easier to convert because they never really enjoyed meat.
Really? I
yeah,
can't
my
imagine
ex-
anyone enjoying meat.
My ex, meat made her feel sick, so she never really enjoyed it. So so it was easy for her to become vegetarian, especially because she really loves animals, and they get into that kind of religious part of it.
I love them too. That's why I eat them. I'm joking.
No, I love animals, and I support anything that's conservative about animals, but I'm also not an idiot. I know my body needs what it needs for what I do. I don't tell people that you need to do this and this is why. I don't make up reasons why you should follow my religion, whatever.
What works for you.
Whatever works for you, and you'll know. Your body will tell you, you know. So my body does very well with protein-based diet from animals. Like as soon as if I would have figured out the carnivore diet when I was 15, I would have had a different life, you know.
Oh yeah.
Because like I did it for 4 months. Oh my God. It was amazing. I lost so much weight, like just naturally. Plus I was working out and I had so much energy. My mind was so much clearer. No pain. You know, I have pain from martial arts on my right knee. You know, because when I went to Japan, they didn't follow the same rules about low leg kicks that we do over here. So they just went for it. They were trying to chop me down because I was taller. But I still have like kinks in that knee, you know, because I thought we were following the same rules. So I wasn't, at first I didn't protect it. And then after that I adjusted, but still they got two or three kicks in. So even when I came back, you know, I had I couldn't kneel, you know, so I had to do physical therapy for it. I could move, I could squat, I could do all that, but I still have to be careful as I'm getting older.
That makes you think too. Imagine that was done, because it was done in a tournament. Imagine you do that to somebody with malicious intent in the street, what their life would be like after.
They weren't trying to kill me, so
exactly. So imagine that shit. That dude's gonna remember you for the rest of his fucking life. Damn, I should have never picked that fight.
You know, but you know, these are like kinks and pains that I've had from my martial arts experience, from when I used to do skating and stuff like that, when I fall on the ground from like jumping off of something. And like now in my old age, every morning it's like, oh, remember this? You know, you wake up and you're like, oh, fuck. You know, so, but like when I changed.
Yep, I get it too.
You know, so when I started doing the carnivore diet, I was just like, this is different. This is actually, I could feel the difference. And it was like one of those aha moments where I realized what my body needs. It was just.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking about the same thing. I would say maybe, I don't know if next month or the month after, but I would say in that time frame, I'm probably going to start doing that as well. It
is expensive.
After Thanksgiving.
It's expensive because you're seeing it as it's really expensive. But like for me, it was almost, if you did a full grocery and you bought rice, vegetables, and like some meat, you know,
works out to the same.
It kind of works out to the same price.
It does make a difference, because I remember I tried it for maybe 2 months. I think we talked about it that time.
Yeah,
you were asking me questions. And I got into it.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the problems was that I was coming across was I was living in a household where everybody was supposed to eat from the same compra.
Yeah.
So it made it hard, because the original agreement was that I would buy my meat, they would buy their meat, and that would never happen. They were still eating my shit.
Yeah.
So I was hungry still. Like I would eat 1 or 2 pieces of chicken. I ain't gonna feed my big ass. You know what I'm saying? So then there was one day where I just broke. I was so hungry. I said, fuck it. And I went and got some rice. And I fucked up my diet that way. Well, that was right as the pandemic started.
That happens to me, especially during the pandemic. Like, I'll go visit my mom. And she'll make a meal, because my brother and his girl lives with her. And she cooks, you know, for today and to have like leftovers for him for work. But if I show up, she's like force feeding me, like, here, have this. And it's like a huge Dominican plate of rice, like 50% rice and like beans and like 25% meat, you know. And I'm like, you get to a point, there's so much that you could say, no, 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 thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you. And then now in the pandemic, you're like, fuck it. It's rice and beans. I'm Dominican. I'm going to eat it, you know. Like
I think, too, is also the culture that we have, you know, because the culture is very similar.
Yeah.
As the Caribbean Hispanics, is that rice and beans are a lot easier to get your hands on, and meat is a lot more expensive. So that's why they eat so much of abundance of it.
No, yeah, because meat has always been expensive, no matter where you're at, you know, and that's why most cultures are vegetarians. They'll tell you otherwise, but meat is expensive, whatever. And in the Dominican Republic, the portion will be more carbs because back in the day, you were out working with your hands. You were moving. So you needed that energy. And that's why they were able to maintain a low weight because they were
busy. They were moving in the
sun,
too.
They were moving. But once you switch over to a more industrialized world and most jobs are sedentary and you're just sitting down and you're still eating that way, you're going to blow up.
Yeah, that's true. Because I remember when I went to Puerto Rico one of the times, and the breakfasts they had, I was like, what the fuck? It was like avena, it was an egg sandwich, it was a fucking malta. I'm like, damn, malta for breakfast? So you're eating all these things, and I remember I was like, I can't have no more. And it was almost insulting to tell them no.
Yeah. Well, it's a different world because, like, in Dominican Republic, they eat heavier in the morning. As they go towards the night, they eat lighter.
Lighter, yep.
You know? And, like, it's not like that here. It's like the biggest meal.
It's the same.
The biggest meal here is right after work.
Yep.
Which is closer to bedtime. So you're stuffing yourself. And if you're not working out and, like, burning at least 500 to 1,000 calories in your workout, and then you just stuff yourself with like 3,000 calories of food. Because nobody tells you. I would imagine a Dominican plate is between 2,500 to like almost 4,000 calories in one Dominican plate because there's so much rice, and the rice is cooked in oil.
Yeah, that's true.
The beans has oil. The chicken has oil, like chicken, whatever meat is cooked or stir fried or whatever. So you're adding so much more calories. And like, then people are like, well, I don't know. I went on this diet and like, no, you got to change your whole life.
That's why they go on the Herbalife and they start losing all that weight because all they're eating is all they're drinking is shakes instead of eating
because they start drinking shakes and they start cutting down, you know, all this carbs that they're eating. And then they start seeing that little quick gain in the sense of losing weight, which is mostly water weight in the beginning, that everybody loses real quick, you know. But
it's so funny. I remember going to the gym over here. Everybody was trying to sell people Herbalife, and then you see these girls walking around with the Herbalife tights on, Herbalife t-shirts. I'm like, damn, all y'all motherfuckers sell Herbalife? How many people do you have how many people are left to sell to? All y'all motherfuckers are selling that.
Yeah, it's a pyramid scheme, the whole thing, the Herbalife thing. It's like they try to get you to buy, and then as they're trying to get you to buy, they try to get you to become a member to sell so that you could work under them.
Yeah, because my ex did that shit to me. She got me some pyramid scheme, and I bounced and she got mad. Yeah. It was called, I can't remember what the fuck. Huh?
Amway?
No. It was a health and beauty one. I can't remember. I still can't remember. And I paid.
There's so many out there, and everybody's always like, if somebody tells you while they're trying to sell you this that this is not a pyramid scheme,
then it's a pyramid scheme.
It's a pyramid scheme. Yeah, man.
Because the way it worked was, you could only get the product at a discounted price if you had a contract for it, where you would buy at least 3 of them or something like that.
Yeah.
That's a fucking scam. What the fuck was it called? I can't believe I can't remember because it just happened. It wasn't that long ago. Maybe like 7 months ago, 8 months ago. But anyways, I remember because she convinced me to become a distributor, right? So I did that. And then
what was it? She had tried to get me to get distributors too, and that didn't happen. After a while, I was like, listen, I'm not spending $140 a month to sell products. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So I bounced out of it.
Yeah, because then they want you to have to always be restocking at the end of the month. You need to have
exactly.
That's how they get you, you know. And it's not. It's just like if you really think about it, it's just like, wait, what? Like the only way that
you
this
can
works.
make so much money off of it. I'm like, not so much, because I made like $20 from them, and that was it. It works.
It worked.
It's called It Works. I still have some of this shit. This drink was supposed to be like an energy drink, right? Well, the bag isn't from them. The bag is from my boy supplement shop, and they sell all kinds of stuff, and they're legit. So if you guys want to check out Lavish, Lavish sells everything. They sell pre-workouts, bro. You will not find on the market, and they're like fucking, they're high stim. They're like
nice.
bouncing off the fucking wall. I gotta get some that.
Still be getting that feeling of the pins on your skin.
Some of them do, some of them don't. It depends on the product. The beta alanine, some of them doesn't have that. That's what gives you that. So this is called It Works, and some of these were actually good. The chocolate ones were good. These are like the greens, and you would drink these.
Okay.
And then this was supposed to be like a pre-workout, and it really did nothing. It was called Keto Energy.
Keto
Energy. The only thing they had that I actually really liked was the chocolate greens were fucking delicious. And they had a coffee, a keto coffee. Oh my God, that shit was amazing. It made me shit my brains out, but it was good. And I would mix it with the chocolate greens. So the keto coffee was chocolate flavored. You mix it with the keto green, with the greens, phenomenal. The shit was amazing. But they also had like face pads and beauty products, wraps to make you skinny, what have you. But yeah, it was called It Works, and it was like a super pyramid scheme. And I remember when I got into it, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to support her dreams, and I'm going to get in with it. Yeah. But yeah, man, I found out getting clavado in the ass. I was like, ah!
Oh, man. No, you always got to keep your eye out.
Yeah. But, you always try to support your loved ones' endeavors, so I did it. And then
I've done that before. I've done that before. I've supported a family member, even though I was like, this is a pyramid scheme. No, it's not. And then
was it Amway?
No, it was another one, a traveling one. I don't remember. But like I remember, I'm there for family, so I was supporting. I had to like buy something that was pretty expensive, and then it was just so that she could meet like a quota or something like that. And end of the day, they no longer do that. So it's like. You help them, and you hope that they find out soon enough what they're into.
Yeah, one of my old students is in a traveling one where like he's like, I'm in Jamaica now. You could be here with me.
And they have like a little flag. And they take a picture with like, look where I'm at. You could be here.
Yeah.
I think it's the same one.
And he had to inbox me because I could really change your life, Shihan. And I was like, I'm good, bro. Thanks, though. Don't you want to be traveling the world? I was like,
traveling, and then if you meet this, you get a car. They pay for it every month. If you meet this, you get an apartment that pretty much they'll pay for that every month, and you just gotta keep. I know which one you're talking about.
You gotta keep jerking niggas, and that's it.
And you never reached even the first level. It's like, where's my
never? Because there's always some weird goal that's unattainable.
Yeah, and because you have to get more people under you, so you have to convince more people so that you can reach that level. But you tell them they can reach that level.
The same thing happens with them. With It Works, you got to be like a super diamond, some bullshit.
Exactly. It's all levels.
They have weird names for it, like super diamond, emerald.
They make it sound like you're in a video game and you like reaching the next level. It's like It's like, for us, when we get the new belt, it's like, oh, fuck, I got to learn this so I can get to that belt.
Check this out. I got my new belt. Now I got to. By the way, I'm obsessed with this belt.
Nice. I need to get back into it, man. I've been like.
This one came from